Hey, good morning. It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Nice to have you here up on Lake Wissota. I'm guessing it's a foggy Lake Wissota. In fact, let's take, oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good and foggy out there, I think, throughout much of Wisconsin. So keep that in mind if you're going to be driving anytime soon. Coming up today, we're going to talk to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area. A whole lot of little nuggets of Wisconsin political news to discuss. We'll also look at a report at how Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley is facing criticism for taking tens of thousands of dollars worth of trips for various conferences. We'll talk to former state legislator Fred Clark. He has some thoughts on the letters that have been sent by Wisconsin Republicans to Canada, blaming them for, their country burning down. Okay. Also, we'll go over the Trump-Zelensky meeting in the White House, which featured a whole lot of gibberish from the commander-in-chief. We'll also talk about the Brewers and the doubleheader they were supposed to play yesterday and the doubleheader that they're going to play today. All this and more. And then there's going to be this change among the cable stations. MSNBC is now becoming MS what? So we'll get all that and more at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
Federal authorities from DHS arrested her, but then a local judge raised her bond in the crash case to $5 million. After that, she was taken into the Dane County Jail again. This case has become a lightning rod for the debate over illegal immigration. Homeland Security had requested a detainer on Martinez, essentially asking the Dane County Sheriff's Office to hold her for them. Those requests are not legally binding, and Dane County does not honor them. That caused a spat between the Sheriff's Office and Homeland Security. Leaders at Homeland wanted to deport Martinez and called Dane County a sanctuary community. But Sheriff Calvin Barrett said giving her a taxpayer-funded flight back to Honduras and releasing her as a free woman isn't justice, and he wants her to stand trial. Meanwhile, years' worth of work on Wilson Street in downtown Madison is finally finished. It's taken about a decade of planning, designing, and actual construction to redo the Wilson Street corridor, which leads to Monona Terrace. They've redone the street, added bike lanes, and done other updates. Altogether, the project cost about $18 million. There's a ribbon cutting to celebrate all these improvements on Wednesday. For more local and state news, just head to our website, WMDXradio.com. I'm Savannah Tomate-Wilson, 92.7 WMDX News.
A doubleheader at Wrigley Field. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers and Cubs scheduled to play 2 games again today. That's because they got rained out last night in Chicago. The Brewers winning Game 1 yesterday, 7-0, thanks to home runs by Bryce Terang and Caleb Durbin. Have the Brewers made a statement? Cubs manager Craig Counsell.
Yeah, I think the message sent really is that, look, there's a big gap. They're ahead of us by a lot. It's a talented team on and off the field. It's a talented team, but there's a big gap, and we got room to make up. There's no question about it. Frankly, that makes it daunting. They've been good, man.
The Brewers now lead the Cubs by 9 games. NFL, despite heavy rains in Green Bay, the Packers held practice, and even though he had thumb surgery a week ago today, Jordan Love was at practice, at least for the first half.
He's doing his job, man. He's doing exactly what he is supposed to do, and being there for the team when he can, taking his mental reps if he's not on the field, and while he is on the field, doing what he's been doing.
That's Packers receiver Romeo Doubs with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Rebuilding and refreshing local radio one station at a time. This Civic Media radio station is proud to be a part of your community. Learn more at civicmedia.us.
A little patchy morning fog today, otherwise partly cloudy with a high right around 83 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy will drop to 63 for an overnight low. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a high right around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 64.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
What is your feeling about Donald Trump basically taking over law enforcement in Washington, D.C.? Joe from Madison, what you got for us?
We're going to be paying for this. At the same time, we're taking cuts in healthcare, education, transportation, you name it, we're taking cuts. It's an absolute waste of money. Crime is down. It's a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. So instead of dissing that city and lying about what they've done, how about looking at how they've succeeded?
The award-winning Maggie Dawn Show. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6. The Todd Albaugh Show.
In an time when there's a lot of pain and suffering in Milwaukee after these floods, when the news isn't great every day, we need a little bit of good news, something to distract us from all the craziness of politics. So the Brewers keep on moving here if they can hold 8.5 games up on the Chicago Cubs. We should all be able to rally around that and just enjoy the ride, folks.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays 2 to 4.
I can rally around that.
Amen.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on a Tuesday morning, August 19th, 2025. It's a foggy but beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're spending your mornings listening across the Civic Media Radio Network. And if you're joining us in some other way, shape, or form on social media, through Facebook or YouTube, through the app, by podcast, on the website, however you got here, we appreciate you starting your Tuesday morning right here. I got a question for you. What is your superpower? That thing that maybe you take for granted, a particular skill or something that you have, but that really comes in handy. And it just might be, your chocolate chip cookie recipe. It might be how handy you are with anybody's car trouble. I've just learned that mine is in tech support. I really ought to open up a help desk. I should move to India right now and open a help desk, as I'll describe coming up in just a bit. On the program today, we're going to visit with Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area. We'll discuss how Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is coming to western Wisconsin to help one of the Democrats trying to unseat Congressman Derrick Van Orden. We'll look into whether Congressman Bryan Steil is signaling a willingness to help President Trump kill mail-in voting. That thing that's used safely and securely by hundreds of thousands of Wisconsin voters. Trump, meanwhile, not only is attacking mail-in balloting after Vladimir Putin told him up in Alaska that it's not a good thing to do. He also yesterday hosted Ukraine's president, which was strangely missing the red carpet. It was missing the military flyover. It was missing the ride in the presidential limo. It seemed didn't it seem a little out of balance? And yet we're trusting him to bring a fair and balanced peace to Europe. Okay. We'll also talk about how Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley is being criticized for accepting tens of thousands of dollars in trips during her time on the bench. We'll talk to former state legislator Fred Clark about how ridiculous certain Wisconsin politicians looked in sending a letter to Canada to complain about, their country burning down. We're going to fact check the people who want to blame everything other than a changing climate for everything that's changing in our climate. All of that and more along the way. We'll get an updated forecast, see if this fog is supposed to linger for very long. And as always, we invite you to follow us and to comment. The Civic Media app is one of the best ways to reach out to us. Just pull up any one of the radio stations where you're hearing us and use the text feature there, and we'll see it and maybe put your comment up on screen. But, of course, we are on Facebook for both Up North News and Civic Media, and YouTube for both Up North News and Civic Media. So you can reach us that way as well. You can email us, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Up North News is a separate entity from Civic Media, but it's a partnership we sure do enjoy on these weekday mornings from 6 to 9. You can follow my team over at upnorthnewswi.com. And you can follow the producer of this shindig, Parker Olson, down in Madison Studio A2, by simply listening to him right now when I say, Parker, what are you up to down there in Madison Studio A2? How are you?
Not up to much. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what time Fred Clark is coming on, because I actually was not aware of that. That's okay.
Did I not put that in your notes?
It's not in my rundown.
Oh,
but it's okay. I see he'll be on 7:52. Is that right?
In our Way Up North segment, yes.
All right.
Which somehow I neglected to put on your little piece of paper. So,
It's all good.
I get the important stuff in there. You
do. You do. It's more important that you know these things than it is that I do.
If I get again, like I said last week, I just want to get the songs from the history lesson in there. If I get that in,
It's true.
Otherwise, that's a whole lot of time to tap dance.
That's
Otherwise.
we'd have to sing the songs ourselves, Pat. Can you imagine?
And I don't even know that our license covers that. So it's better this way that we actually queue up the records.
Yeah,
And
I think people will be happy.
Wouldn't it be fun if we actually had the records?
That would be fun.
When was the last time you played a record? When was the last time you actually put a needle on a record?
I myself never have. We had a show at our college radio station in Whitewater, though. We had 2 record players, I think, actually, in our studio. And we had a show. I think it was called For the Record, and they just played records and talked. I never listened to said show, but I'm told it was great.
See, again, I can't believe it's now ancient history. It certainly doesn't feel like ancient history to me. But when I was working at the UW Eau Claire College radio station, the first thing that you would do before, if you were doing a music shift, as opposed to a news or a talk shift, if you had a music shift, and, we all took turns with that too, you'd go into this other room, it's your typical office, about the same size as the room that you're in right now, Madison Studio A2, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, roughly, something like that. And it's, got shelves all along it. And it was just filled with albums, like going into a record store. And we would just go through and just kind of pick ourselves. What songs do we feel like playing today? Which always gives you the false sense of that's what radio is, that it's just a jukebox. It's one of the first things that Professor Bailey had to say to us at UW Eau Claire is, a radio station is not your personal jukebox. But it was for those shifts. You just went and picked the records that you wanted to play and played them, and then you made sure that you put them back afterwards. You cussed if the needle skipped because somebody else didn't take as good a care of the records as you would. But they were there, They were there to play, but no records for you.
I knew that swearing at your equipment was a very regular part of radio, but I wasn't familiar with that particular.
Swearing is an absolutely essential part of broadcasting, except in the broadcasting itself.
That is true.
I learned to swear working at the UW Eau Claire College TV station, where as a beginning camera operator, you'd have the headset on, the director is giving you cues, and the director found all kinds of colorful ways to tell you that you were screwing up. I mean, it was impressive, the words that I learned. I want to say Mike Tomchek was his name, from like Pittsville or something like that, but don't hold me to it. But I learned some language, let me tell you. And you learn to be extremely aware. When we talk now about people sometimes say things and they don't realize there's a hot mic, they don't realize that they're on social media or whatever, I guess I understand it, but and I did this when I was running for office as well. They're like, oh, you got to watch what you say. I'm like, I always watch to make sure that there's not, if you see a microphone within 50 feet of you, you just assume it's on,
Yeah, pretty much. I was talking with somebody in one, I think I was in A2 in the production side of it, and was having a conversation with somebody, and I went, I don't normally swear when I'm around a microphone. However,
I'll make an exception occasionally when at least you think it's not on, but you never really know for sure. In that whole guest rundown, I also failed to mention Dan Hagan from WJFW Newswatch 12 will be joining us today as well. So should I add that name to your list as well?
I got that one. That one I know.
Okay.
The regular ones I always know.
You know the regulars?
Yeah, I've got that. Hey, that is seared into my brain at this point.
Good. Okay. Sounds good. Let's talk Brewers and Cubs. There was supposed to be a doubleheader yesterday, making up for an earlier rainout. They did play game 1. You know what happened to game 2? It was rained out.
Wasn't.
Yeah, it was rained out. Let's see. Tony on YouTube. I remember the first time I heard Pat curse. It was shocking. I was used to radio Pat. I don't remember the context in that, Tony, but I can understand if you've.
I bet he remembers.
If you've only ever heard somebody in one frame, it's a little weird to hear the other one.
It was a traumatic experience for Tony.
Yes. But hey, game one of that doubleheader yesterday, that was a lot of fun before the rain out.
The little I saw, yes, it was very fun.
Oh my goodness, 7-0 Brewers. Look at that. I mean, Freddie Peralta, 6 innings, 1 hit, shutout ball. First pitcher to 15 wins on the season. What is he now? 15-4, I believe. I'm sorry, 15-5. The Brewers improved to a Major League Baseball best 79 wins, only 45 losses. Now, they snapped the 14-game winning streak, so now you kind of get that, we've won so many of the last so many games. So since the All-Star break, there have been 28 games. 28 games since the All-Star break. The Brewers have won 23 of them. They're 23-5 since the All-Star break. And let's see, there were home runs by Bryce Terang and Caleb Durbin in game one. And the Cubs fans, they were not happy. They were not happy with all the Brewers fans because usually it's the other way around. They always joke that American Family Field becomes Wrigley North. Well, this was definitely American Family Field South yesterday. And it felt good. And so then there was that very satisfying pause after game one. And you're like, oh, let's do this again. And then the rains came. And just washed it all away. So we are on the same schedule as yesterday when there was a doubleheader, a day-night doubleheader. So last night's makeup game will be done this afternoon. So again, pregame at 12:45 across several Civic Media stations. And then there'll be a pause after the day game, and there will eventually be the evening game, and the pregame there will start at 6:30 on several Civic Media radio stations.
And I do think that both of these games will actually happen today.
Yes, I believe we've chased away enough of the clouds here, shall we say, to get something done. So here was the question I put off the top in terms of what's your superpower.
Yeah,
I learned last night, and I've learned this repeatedly. First with my late dad, and now with my mom as well. I can do tech support for the elders.
Really?
Over phone. You think, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to describe this. But it turns out I was able to describe it so that when my mom called to say that her Bluetooth speaker was not working, it's the Bluetooth speaker, she calls it her big hearing aid because it's connected directly to her TV. And so she can't hear the TV from across the room. So she's got this Bluetooth speaker on the little table right next to her recliner. And that thing is blasting, let me tell you. Well, they had a power outage yesterday in her neighborhood. And when the power finally came back on, it had become unpaired. And at first I thought there's no way I'm going to explain Bluetooth pairing to this 80-year-old woman. And yet I tried. I said, well, there's this little thing hanging off the back of the TV and then this little button on the speaker. And, she's like, I can't push both buttons at once. I said, no, you don't have to. You push the one, then you go over and push the other, and they're both in pairing mode. They're like lovers running across the grassy field toward each other, and eventually they pair up. And, man, I had no idea whether she could. I was expecting a call back going, I can't. Your sister's going to have to come and fix this. Yeah. And instead, phone rings a couple minutes later. I'm like, oh, here it comes. She's like, I did it. I was like, this is great. That
is impressive. That's impressive on both ends of that, actually.
I said, Sherry said to her mother-in-law, you are the most technically accomplished 80-year-old in the Twin Cities right now. Congratulations on that. So good on her. But it's one of those things that I've been able to help. I have no mechanical skills whatsoever, but I can provide some tech support. I mean, I typed up Sherry's papers when in college because I knew typing, and now I know Bluetooth pairing. So I got that going for me.
Wow.
And I can talk, and I'll do some more in just a moment, right after I tell you that from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, I thank you for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Tony, this was the sentence Pat said. You blankety blank, 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 blank.
That's a lot of blanks.
That was a lot of blanks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I can't quite decipher.
Parker, this is not Wheel of Fortune. Those don't stand for individual letters. Don't worry about filling in the blanks there. It's for visual purposes only. Okay, let's see. Today's the 19th. Okay.
Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
You know Ignite Glass and Gifts 3 locations in Madison, but you can also shop IgniteGlassandGifts.com. You'll find grinders, lighters, collectibles, hand-blown glass water pipes, artistically designed jewelry, and plenty of other items delivered straight to your door or to family and friends. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts. Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Plus IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
Hey, Wisconsin, it's construction season, and the Wisconsin DOT wants to help you safely navigate work zones. Check 511wi.gov or download the app for road work or closures on your route. Know before you go with 511 Wisconsin. Sponsored by the Wisconsin DOT.
Where working people come to talk. It's the Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about. No talking points.
Over at Up North News, we have a couple of different newsletters, one on the weekdays, one on Sunday mornings about Wisconsin politics and other things like our question of the week. And the question that I asked this week dealt with what Donald Trump's next job title should be. This was inspired by Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, saying Donald Trump would really love to be transportation secretary. So I asked, well, what do you think his next job should be? I thought people might say McDonald's fry cook simply because of that photo op that he did. Remember during the campaign last year where he pretended to work at a McDonald's that had actually been shut down and wasn't serving actual customers, but Trump was doing the whole posing for the cameras thing? Nobody's said that. But there have been a lot of things related to either migrant labor on a farm or incarceration. But you can share your answers and get our question of the week before anybody else on Sunday mornings by signing up for our newsletter. Head to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe up in the top banner. There's going to be a corporate name change in the media world, and I'm befuddled by it. And I can't imagine that Parker or anybody else wouldn't be a little confused as well, that MSNBC's name is going away. Now, MSNBC, correct me if I'm wrong, probably one of the more recognizable names on the cable dial. Wouldn't you agree?
It is certainly like the top 5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be very few people. I mean, you say CNN, you say ESPN, and I think most people, if you said MSNBC, they'd say, oh, yeah, it's one of those news channels, one of those news and talk channels. This one's the liberal-leaning one compared to all the ones on the right.
Yeah.
And yet MSNBC's name is going away, and it's all part of a typical corporate move, a corporate, I don't know, divorce, I guess you could say, because Comcast, the big cable giant, which eventually bought NBC and Universal Studios and so ran it as NBC Universal, is now having a split up so that they will still, Comcast, the parent company, will still have NBC and they'll still have Universal Studios, but they've decided they want to spin off the cable company, cable channels. into something separate for whatever reason. And so that company has been formed and announced the changes that it's going to make. And as a result, both MSNBC and CNBC, the cable news business channel, they will no longer have the little NBC peacock that identifies them. And for MSNBC, it goes a step further. They're changing the name outright to get NBC out of there, to show a true break with NBC News. And so the new name of it is My Source News Opinion World. My Source News Opinion World, or MS Now for short. Instead of MSNBC, it's MSNOW, MS Now, to which I say, MS what? or MSWTF, or MS huh? I don't get this one at all. Especially when you're keeping the MSN, the MSNOW. MSNBC was originally a partnership between NBC and MSN. Does anybody remember MSN? Parker, you remember MSN, don't you? No, you don't. You've never heard of MSN, have you? No. This goes back to the dot-com bubble days in the mid to late 1990s, when there was no Parker Olson around. And during the dot-com days, you had all these different entities that were forming on the web, and they were trying to get into the synergy with TV. And so Microsoft, which was known just for an operating system, started operating a website and a news channel. And MSN was like Microsoft News, kind of like Yahoo News as you know it today.
Sure. Okay.
And then they paired up with NBC. And so MSNBC was this Microsoft NBC partnership. Well, Microsoft left that partnership a long, long time ago. There's been no MS for Microsoft involved in forever. But MSN is still around, but NBC is not. Excuse me. So Comcast is spinning off all the cable channels, MSNBC, CNBC, Golf Channel, E, Oxygen, Sci-Fi, and all of that. And somewhere in my basement is videotape. I have no idea what format, if it's 3/4 inch or if it's high 8 or what. But I rolled tape on the very first minutes of MSNBC back in 1996. There was this, hours long, countdown with all these little clips from NBC News and things like that. And then eventually, I think it was at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., the channel fired up and somebody appeared, some anchor appeared, and, a new news channel was born. And I was working at the NBC station at the time in Eau Claire, Channel 13. So I thought, well, this is a nice little historic moment. So I rolled tape on it. I've got it somewhere. I don't know. It's in a box in the basement. Along with, there's so much other stuff. I need to retire now just to digitize all these old tapes and still have some fun with them.
You're such a nerd. I'm sorry.
I know. And I embrace it. I absolutely. So yeah. I have that. So let's see. Alicia says, yeah, MS Now really doesn't roll. Tony says, not E. Where will we watch the Kardashians? Oh, they'll still be on E. It's got not a different, a different corporate parent is all. There was no date given for the spinoff other than sometime this year.
It was like this year.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So they felt a need to do that. I think in part to allow the wave of mockery to subside because there's a lot of it right now out on social media.
Nothing can ever be as bad as HBO going from HBO to HBO Max to Max to HBO Max to HBO.
You think that was an interesting rebranding? Let me tell you about a little something called New Coke.
New Coke?
Oh my Parker. All right. Parker and I got to talk while you listen to the Midwest Farm Report, and then we'll have more on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Foggy, but beautiful. It's always beautiful up north. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Honest to God, tell me that hearing about New Coke is not an absolute mystery to you. It is an absolute mystery to you, isn't it?
All
All right. That's fine. It's okay. We got this. We guess what? Especially you folks right now on social media. You folks right now, while we're in the radio commercial break here, I want you to get over to your comment section right now. I know you don't, it's not something you're used to doing. Maybe you just like to watch or listen in the background. Get over there and tell me your impression of New Coke when it first came out. Tell me a story about it. Because here's mine. I felt like the only person who liked it. I was the weirdo. No, Tony, it's not where they made the cocaine twice as strong. No,
that was my guess.
Yeah,
So-
no.
Or when they stopped putting cocaine in Coca-Cola.
Yes, maybe that was it. No, it's not like that either. So, all right. So give me a couple of words about New Coke so that I can educate young Mr. Olson here on that, and we will be back in a little bit.
I'm worried.
3-foot square area they measured, yields look better than expected. 1,188 pods, which is about 16% higher than last year and more than 25% higher than their 3-year average as far as soybeans. We'll keep you posted on more comments from the Pro Farmer Crop Tour as it rolls its way across the Midwest. Markets are next.
At the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, they know your business has always been something special. Now you can let customers know it too, in an instant, with the red and yellow Something Special from Wisconsin sticker. Joining the program gives you access to supplier and distribution information, marketing support, and a community of like-minded Wisconsin businesses. Best of all, you'll let people know that your work is done with care, quality, and love. You've always been something special. Visit somethingspecialfromwisconsin.com to make it official.
Unique farming operations need unique financial solutions. Egg Country Farm Credit Services offers customized financing that fits any size farm, ranch, or agribusiness. The next time you're in the market for more land, equipment, facilities, or maybe even an operating loan, contact the team at Egg Country. They know agriculture and will work for you. Egg Country. Focused on ag, focused on you. Egg Country is an equal opportunity lender.
Yesterday, the barrel cheese gained 3 cents to $1.81. 40-pound block cheese was up 5.5 cents at $1.83, and double A butter 3.25 cents higher, $2.33 per pound. This morning, the September Class 3 milk that goes into cheese is actually down 4 at $18.70 to a hundredweight. December corn's down 2 at $4.04. November beans are up 3, $10.45. September wheat down 3 right now, $4.99 a bushel. So just a quick snapshot on where the numbers stand for right now, anyhow, on a Tuesday. I am Farm Director Pam Yankee.
As Wisconsin is cheering on the Brew Crew. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
A little patchy morning fog today, otherwise partly cloudy with a high right around 83 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy will drop to 63 for an overnight low. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a high right around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 64.
My name is DeMar Hamlin. I play for the Buffalo Bills, and I play safety. CPR saved my life. I've teamed up with the American Heart Association as a national ambassador to help create a nation of lifesavers, turning bystanders into lifesavers through CPR education and access to AEDs. Nearly 3 out of 4 cardiac arrests that don't happen in hospitals happen in homes. Join me to ensure everyone has the chance to live longer, healthier lives. Visit heart.org/nation.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Why is cookie dough in everything now? It was fun when you were a kid and actually ate the cookie dough, but in ice cream, it's just it's like an interruption for the gorgeous texture that is cold cream ice cream. And then, and here's this uncooked egg and whatever it is. There's a fudge ribbon swirl, awesome. Vanilla ice cream, great. Peanut butter cups, great. Nuts, awesome.
7:35. Nice to have you along here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow, founding editor of Up North News. You can find our work at upnorthnewswi.com, a part of Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy newsroom. We have so many weighty matters we could discuss. There's the Trump-Zelensky meeting. There's Trump going after mail-in voting. There's a sitting Supreme Court justice being criticized for booking all kinds of travel that's paid for by right-wing, think tanks and things like that. And I want to get to all of that, but right before the break, we learned that somebody born in this particular century was not familiar with the phrase New Coke and the controversy over the time that Coca-Cola changed its formula way back in the olden days, 1984, 85, something like that.
Oh, God, okay. I was under the impression this is something I should have maybe known about.
This is something you should have.
This was 84.
This was like one of the big, this would be like me not knowing about World War II, even though it happened 20 years before I was born. Okay, this was as big as
World War II to New Coke.
This was on a World War II basis in terms of pop culture and the things that we ingested with our bodies. And when Coca-Cola decided that Pepsi was such a threat because Pepsi was growing and Coke was looking like the old stale product. And so they completely changed their formula. They changed the formula. Imagine your favorite beer just deciding we're not going to be that beer anymore. We're going to be something else and we're going to call it that. That's what Coke did, thinking we're going to be, now we're going to be new and fun and everybody's going to love us. And nobody loved them. It was the greatest corporate marketing disaster. It made the Edsel. Well, you don't even know what the Edsel is. Never mind. There's got to be something. I don't know. I'll come up with it later. And finally, after a few months, they had to rebrand it as Coca-Cola Classic and bring back the old formula. And the new formula went away until a couple years back with Coke Zero, which is not exactly the same as New Coke, but close enough. And it's why I drink Coke Zero every day, Coke Zero Sugar, because I'm one of the few freaks that loved New Coke back in that spring of 1985 when this all took place.
So what you're telling me is Coke just ditched their...
They just ditched Coke and said, here's some new ingredients put together in a cola, and we're going to call that Coca-Cola. You look so confused. Like, how would anybody do that? And that's what we said at the time. How would anybody do this?
That's such a stupid thing to do.
Tony, not a fan of Coke Zero. Well, that's okay.
Hey, you know what?
Alicia says, I was too little, but I did hear about it from my mom. She used to be a huge Coca-Cola lover, and she tried New Coke and hated it, and I never heard the end of it. You see? And they made it way sweeter because, again, they were trying to compete with Pepsi at the time.
Huh.
And you like what you like at the time. Look at when I was in college, I drank so much Mountain Dew. I can hardly touch Mountain Dew now.
If all that you drank, if the worst thing you drank in college was Mountain Dew, good on you.
Yes, exactly. Well, these energy drinks. Do you drink any of the energy drinks that are out there now?
No, I don't. As you may have caught on, I'm not a big caffeine guy.
No, you're not. You and your water, and that is to be saluted. And yet we mock it anyway because that's what that's our trade in stock here. But yes, it's a good thing that you do that. But yeah, I look at these energy drinks and I can't fathom having more than one of them. And I'm a little surprised more people don't just drop dead on the sidewalk as a result of ingesting these things.
I knew people. One of my roommates in college had more than 2, I think, a day.
Oh,
for a minute, which was a problem.
Can't be good. Yeah, Alicia saying the reason I like Coke is because Pepsi is just too sweet. And you got to love the reactions of people in restaurants. And the way that the waitresses always say it, or the waiters, when you order a Coke or a Diet Coke, and they always say the same thing, is Pepsi okay? Like they're apologizing in advance. Like, is Pepsi okay? And like Pepsi for like a hot minute tried to do an ad campaign based on that. Like, no, be proud that we're serving Pepsi, but it didn't really catch on. So But then again, neither did New Coke. And now Parker knows all about New Coke.
I've learned so much. This is
know.
why I show up to work every day, Pat.
You
So
never
you
know.
can teach me about 1980s, 1990s pop culture.
Hey, there's always something we can learn. You know what I learned yesterday? I learned that Congressman Derrick Van Orden came to Eau Claire last Friday. There wasn't a town hall. No, there wasn't any big announcement. There weren't any protesters there because most people didn't know about it. Apparently, you had to be a member of the Eau Claire Chamber to hear about it. But there I am looking at the Leader Telegram, and the headline is Van Orden talks about one big beautiful bill with local businesses in Eau Claire. The story here is by Michael Bowman and says that Representative Derrick Van Orden sat down with local business leaders at the Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce Friday for a discussion about blah, 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 blah. And of course, then we get all the, the positive things about it. We hear about these tax breaks and these investments. And then, of course, we've got Van Orden telling this lie essentially about it, saying if we hadn't passed the one big beautiful bill, the majority of these companies here would be stuck with a 43.5% tax rate, which is devastating. That's not what was going to happen. And Congressman Van Orden knows this. So what was he talking about? Okay, we're back to the first Trump term and the first Trump tax giveaway, which again locked in all these corporate tax breaks. And then a few little tax breaks to the middle class, which had some people fooled like, oh, look, he's really looking out for me. The middle class tax breaks expired after a couple of years. The corporate tax breaks stuck around for the entire length of the bill. But that meant they were about to expire. Had they expired, yeah, all those corporate tax giveaways, they would have reverted back to what it was before the law. And of course, they would frame that as a big tax increase rather than going back to the way things were before Donald Trump gave you this big gift that all the rest of middle-class America had to foot the bill for. So what happened? Well, Trump somehow got back in office again, and so they just picked up right where they left off, and Trump called it a one big beautiful bill, and it was one big bloated boondoggle, and it continues to be so to this day. And once again, there are big corporate tax sweetheart deals in there, and big tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires, and little tax breaks for some folks in the middle class, and it won't last. But also in that bill are budget cuts. Huge budget cuts to Medicaid, to nutrition programs and other things. Do they kick in next week? No, they don't kick in until after next year's midterms. So that from now till then, Derrick Van Orden and others can go around saying, you see, look, nothing's happened. Nobody's benefits have been cut because they kick in after the midterm. It's absolutely diabolical from a political standpoint, but they knew exactly what they were doing in holding off on the painful parts, kicking in, of course, the tax breaks now, which only do what to the deficit? Boom. Just send the deficit right up into the stratosphere. Van Orden said, quote, the Democrats in the state of Wisconsin are saying that we cut Medicaid. In fact, in the one big beautiful bill, because of vertically integrated government between the Republicans in the House and the Senate in D.C. and in the Senate and Assembly in the state of Wisconsin, we got an additional $1 billion a year for the state of Wisconsin for Badger Care. You can't make up a bigger lie than what they're saying. It's just a fact. And when the Democrats are fear-mongering with our seniors and those most vulnerable amongst us, I don't have a lot of time for it. Well, make time, Derrick Van Orden, because here's the thing. We know what a lie that is. We know that the reason there's an extra $1 billion a year had nothing to do with you working alongside Governor Evers and securing that money. We know that it was big cuts that were coming to the states through this bill that forced Wisconsin legislators to act quickly to pass a budget before that axe came down from you, so that money could be raised to help make up for the big cuts in Medicaid that you voted for. And you can say till you're blue in the face that Democrats are fear-mongering and Democrats are lying, but you can't argue with the numbers. And the numbers ain't lying. The numbers tell us just how bad the cuts are going to be. The numbers tell us how bad it's going to be for rural hospitals. The numbers tell us how tax burdens are shifting away from your wealthy buddies and to your constituents. It's why there are 3 Democrats already wanting to run against Derrick Van Orden next year. Why one of them, Becca Cook, is already getting some firepower coming in this week from members of Congress, including Bernie Sanders, who's coming into town at the end of this week, I believe. We're going to talk to Dan Shafer about that later in this show. But underlying all of this for Congressman Van Orden is that he still doesn't have the guts to schedule a town hall. He's got to sneak in, just talk to the business community. I don't know what the email looked like. I get an email from the Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce that advertises events that are coming up. I went back and looked yesterday. I didn't see anything advertising a forum with Derrick Van Orden. I could be wrong, but I went back and looked at several emails and I saw nothing. Now, I'm not a dues-paying member of the Eau Claire Chamber, so I'm sure those folks get a different set of emails. And I am not casting aspersions on the Eau Claire Chamber. That is their right. They can do things for members only. My beef isn't with the Eau Claire Chamber. It's with Congressman Van Orden, who, you know what, while you're there, thanks for coming to Eau Claire, by the way. Glad you could still find it on a map. But maybe double up your pleasure in the Chippewa Valley. Yeah, have your nice, friendly chit-chat with some business leaders and give your spin however you want. Then do what I had to do and so many other people. Head over to DeLong Middle School or maybe to UW Eau Claire, maybe the Sonotag Center. Well, it's brand new. And maybe that'll hold enough of your constituents who want to have a few words with you about what you decided was worthy of our tax dollar investment, tax breaks for millionaires, and what was not worthy of our tax dollars. Healthcare, nutrition programs, a whole new generation of clean energy jobs, support for our farmers, getting them new markets, conservation programs for those new farmers throughout your district. Those were not priorities for you. Neither was holding a town hall to explain why you think it's such a good idea. You love popping off on social media, Congressman Van Orden. Hundreds and hundreds of tweets per month where you get to just talk at people. Kind of like I'm doing here. I get paid for this. But I get to tell Congressman Van Orden, I'm not an elected official. You are. I've been an elected official. I've held listening sessions. I've held over 100 of them. I know what that's like. Some days they're good, some days they're not so good, but that's what you get with the job, unless you are just so frightened of having people explain what a terrible thing you did in supporting Trump in 100% of the way. At no point did you stand up to Donald Trump the way that you said you would, saying you'd be an independent voice for the 3rd Congressional District. You didn't do that. So it's no wonder you're too afraid to debate Mark Pocan or debate anybody else about the job you're doing. You can't, which is why we had to find out about it and talk about it now, several days later. Today's history lesson is next. You're up north. Wow, that really escalated quickly.
That it changed tones just a little.
Mm-hmm.
I was learning about Coke.
Yeah, well, we couldn't do 14 minutes on that, so we did much more than I was expecting. I'll say that much. But when I heard it, you saw it in my face, like, oh my God.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what New Coke is. Oh my God. And I loved your how shocked you were. You can't compare that to World War II. Oh, yes, you can. It was that big. It was Iwo Jima all over again. And again, thank everybody for their service. God bless our troops. But it was the marketing equivalent of it was just so terrible.
And that baffles me.
Yeah. Well, it baffled a lot of us too. Just like it's baffling people. Really? MSNBC? Really? Yeah, that's what you're going to do? That was your choice? Okay, good job. So it just goes to show, sometimes you hear things in like advertising or in the corporate world and you go, oh my God, that's just genius. That's genius. But then you hear these other things and you go, oh, wow, they're not any smarter than me. I mean,
yeah.
I
It
got
feels
nieces
a
and
little-
nephews that could have come up with something more creative than that. You know?
Yeah, it feels a little like one of those things that you read on the internet and go, that's probably not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Not quite onion,
Yeah,
but
not quite onion, but definitely not on the up and up. Nope. All right.
History have occurred over the last decade. Reports have indicated that Milwaukee's Green
Secret
program,
Show.
implemented after floods in 1997, helped mitigate some of the damage from recent flooding. We need more programs like that if we're going to build for a safer, more resilient future.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation area.
An unsuspecting driver at a Milwaukee barbershop.
I got an apprentice here shadowing me. I'm gonna put this hot towel on, man. About a good 3 minutes, all right?
The apprentice is Donald Driver.
So when you come here, you drive?
Yes.
Your car got seatbelts?
Yeah.
You wear them?
No.
Okay, but why not?
I don't want to.
But do you know you can get a ticket for that?
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you a ticket. Bet you wish you buckle up now.
Oh,
my God.
Donald Driver can't always be there to remind you.
Take it, click it. There we go. Click it or ticket.
And let's reduce fatalities on Wisconsin roadways. Sponsored by Wisconsin DOT.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why Saved by the Skin.
Oh, he's doing it again, isn't he? He's playing Chicago again, isn't he? Yes, he is. Welcome to today's history lesson, where the number one song this day in 1972 was by Chicago. Now, I will say there's something cool about hearing them play that song Saturday in the park. I think it was the 4th of July. And actually hearing it on the 4th of July at Summerfest in Milwaukee, as we did last month. That was
I
a
do
cool
like when
moment.
things line up like that.
Yes, it was a musical celestial arrangement, if you will. On this same day in 1972, the Midnight Special debuted on NBC. Now, at first, it was just a one-off special presentation with featuring these rock acts. But then the next year, it was launched as a regular show with Wolfman Jack serving as announcer on Friday nights after the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It was a big deal because it was network television in the early 70s, which was trying to avoid all those hippies and all that stuff, finally embracing rock and roll. I mean, like real rock and roll, not Pat Boone remakes, but actual rock and roll. And you'd hear that now on Friday nights. It would eventually be replaced with something called Friday Night Videos, back when music videos became all the rage when MTV first launched. And now, I don't know if there's really anything that takes its place where on a weekly basis, you're going to see a couple of really good contemporary acts. I don't think we really have. It's kind of like our discussion yesterday about variety shows.
Yeah.
There's just not really a venue for that anymore. You know, so
No.
here we put everything on stream. You pick the stream that you want and, choose what you like.
Yeah, pretty much. People have so much choice now.
Yeah.
It's hard to force things like that.
That's true. On this day in 2006, Drake made his professional debut. He did a 30-minute set in Toronto, opening for Ice Cube, and earned himself $100. Back this day in 2006. He's made a little more money since then. All right, welcome to the Irving Berlin segment of today's history lesson. 2 items. First off, I don't know here in the 21st century, I don't know what we would call the song sensation of the century. I don't know, maybe one of the Taylor Swift albums.
Yeah,
I
probably.
don't know. But in 1911, In the early days of the 20th century, Variety magazine, which was a thing back then, called this new song the song sensation of the history. It was by Irving Berlin.
Yep.
There it is, kids. Irving Berlin's song sensation of the century. This day in 1911. But now we're going to fast forward 72 years to 1983. And that was the peak at number 9 on the charts by a cover of an Irving Berlin song done by Dutch musician Taco.
When you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Putting on the Ritz.
This might be worse.
Oh, come on. No, this was a very popular song in 1983. Irving Berlin was still with us at that point. He was 95 years old, which made him the oldest living songwriter ever to land a top 10 hit because the song had peaked at number 9 this week in 1983.
Okay,
by the way, Taco still with us. I don't recall him doing any other hits, but he turned 70 last month. I think I remember seeing him on the birthday list on one of the weekends. Let's see. The late Johnny Nash was born this day in 1940.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone.
A couple of former Brewers have birthdays today. J.J. Hardy is 43 years old today. And former manager Ned Yost turns 70 today. He was Brewers manager from 2002 to 2008. And I'd entirely forgotten about how when he was fired in September of 2008, it's because the Brewers were falling fast and people were getting tired of these late season collapses. He's fired. There were still 12 games to play left in the regular season. Dale Swaim was named the interim manager. The Brewers clawed back, and they won a wild card spot for their first playoff appearance since the 1982 World Series.
Well, that was a CC Sabathia year, right?
No, I would say
2008.
Sabathia was he 2015 or was it 2008?
I'm
could
sure
be. Could be. I was just focusing on the Ned Yost angle on it. Yost did go on to manage the Kansas City Royals, and then he retired after the 2019 season. Singer Leanne Womack is 59 years old today.
That you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance.
Former President Bill Clinton is 79 years old today. Let's see, singer Christina Perry is 39. And the late Matthew Perry would have been 56 years old today, passed away back in 2023. This is National Photography Day. This is National Potato Day. This is National Bow Tie Day. I'm positive. Have you even worn like a clip-on bow tie? I'm not going to ask you if you've ever tied a bow tie because I think that answer is now literally nobody ties a bow tie.
I don't remember if I've tied a bow tie. I have worn a bow tie.
You have? Okay.
Yes, I believe in my brother's wedding. I
Okay.
think. Maybe not.
Look, with the right thing with a tux or whatever, a bow tie can be very nice. So the folks who wear it is kind of like, I'm being different in my everyday wear, wearing it at work or whatever. It doesn't work for me, but it's okay.
My brother's a bow tie guy.
And it's National Soft Serve Ice Cream Day. And you're going, what is so special about soft serve ice cream? Well, it's made using a special machine that churns the ice cream mix at a slightly higher temperature so it gets a little melty and introduces more air, resulting in a smoother and creamier consistency. So
almost custard-like.
Yeah. Leave it, of course, to Eagle Scout Luke Mathers to tell us on the text line. The only kind of bow ties I wear are the ones that you have to tie yourself, and he has about a dozen of them.
He does it right. Dang it.
He's such a Renaissance man, I mean, all we can do is live in his shadow.
That's true. He's a great role model for us.
And he's handsome and he's capable and he's listening. He's always listening.
You know who else is listening?
Who?
Greg Bach. He says it was 2008 for CC Sabathia.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. All right. The record is clear. We'll have much more for the next 2 hours here on these mornings, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow.
I hope you what? We'll never know. It's over now.
Yeah. Let's see.
Greg is popping in so they can test if their setup is working today.
Oh, okay. Well, then, by all means, let's bring him in. I mean, I've got him up. I'm not hearing anything, so.
Yeah, that's just the audio, though. He's probably going to go over to the other one.
Can you? No, I'm here.
Hello.
I'm hearing.
You hear us?
You can hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us now?
Oh, yes.
Yay!
Okay. Just checking for the morning for everything. Because
yeah.
All right. Cool. That's all I needed to do. Love soda talk. Pat, why would he know New Coke? I mean, seriously, give the boy a chance.
I mean, I own history books. I know big things that happened before I was born. This was a big thing. Okay, apparently
Greg,
it was not big enough.
Okay, all right.
The World War II comparison was nuts, right?
Yeah, that was a lot.
You know, are we really going to focus on the victims when I say that this was like the Hiroshima of marketing? Really?
Have you heard of the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr., my friend?
All right, you've made your point.
I'm sure everyone already knows this, but that whole segment was fire content. Seriously, like whether you want to focus on the soda or DVO, that was just I was listening on the way in. It was fantastic. So
yeah, it's already in the lineup for this weekend. So we have our spotlight nominee. So.
There you go. Awesome.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you. Thanks guys.
Bye.
See ya. WBA, are you listening?
Both of them died. Martinez was arrested and was in the Dane County Jail until she made bond last week, according to court records. The Dane County Sheriff's Office notified the Department of Homeland Security, and federal authorities from DHS arrested her. But then a local judge raised her bond in the crash case to $5 million. After that, she was taken into the Dane County Jail again. This case has become a lightning rod for the debate over illegal immigration. Homeland Security had requested a detainer on Martinez, essentially asking the Dane County Sheriff's Office to hold her for them. Those requests are not legally binding, and Dane County does not honor them. That caused a spat between the Sheriff's Office and Homeland Security. Leaders at Homeland wanted to deport Martinez and called Dane County a sanctuary community. But Sheriff Calvin Barrett said giving her a taxpayer-funded flight back to Honduras and releasing her as a free woman isn't justice, and he wants her to stand trial. Meanwhile, years' worth of work on Wilson Street in downtown Madison is finally finished. It's taken about a decade of planning, designing, and actual construction to redo the Wilson Street corridor, which leads to Monona Terrace. They've redone the street, added bike lanes, and done other updates. Altogether, the project cost about $18 million. There's a ribbon cutting to celebrate all these improvements on Wednesday. For more local and state news, just head to our website, WMDXradio.com. I'm Savannah Tomate-Wilson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Crew conquered the Cubs. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports baseball. The Brewers shut out the Cubs at Wrigley Field 7-0. Starting pitcher Freddie Peralta, 6 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit, got the win. Cubs manager Craig Counsell asked,
"How do you consume this effort today?"
We lost. They pitched really good. We couldn't get anything going offensively. It was a doubleheader, so we had to kind of protect pitching, and we didn't score. They pitched really good. Peralta pitched a really nice game. He was, we kind of got him on the ropes a little bit in 1 inning. That's it. Not enough. But he had his slider was good. His changeup was really good to the lefties, and then we didn't square up many balls.
NFL, the Packers, with just 2 training camp practices left open to the public today and Thursday before they host the Seahawks Saturday afternoon. Golf, Sam Weatherhead atop the leaderboard after round 1 at the Wisconsin State Championship Open at Black Wolf Run in Kohler, Wisconsin. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
As Wisconsin is cheering on Bucky Badger. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
A little patchy morning fog today, otherwise partly cloudy with a high right around 83 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy will drop to 63 for an overnight low. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a high right around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 64.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
Senator Keldor Royce, do you have plans to run for the governor in the state of Wisconsin?
I am pretty likely to run for governor in 2026. When I think about the opportunities that we have in our state and the need for a really strong leader with a lot of experience getting things done in a, politically purple state. I feel really excited about my chances and about what we could do together in this state.
The Todd Alba Show, weekdays 2 to 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show. If you're looking for honest talk, real stories, and straight-up news that matters to you, tune in to The Rick Smith Show. We're digging into the issues that affect your job, your family, your future. Join me weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio.
How is Brittany today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good.
Good.
Is there like a Venmo if I can start paying you for those morning forecasts?
I'm sorry. My last week threw me off. My bad. And I thought about it in the middle of the night. I woke up. I was like, I didn't do that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey, good morning. Nice to have you back on this Tuesday morning, August 19th, 2025, 7:06 the time here. And as I was looking to tell you what's coming up this hour, it occurs to me, poor Parker Olson, who produces this program down in Madison Studio A2, I don't know if you should believe me when I tell you what's coming up this hour, because I looked back at the plan for what I was going to talk about last hour, and I accomplished almost none of that.
New Coke wasn't on there?
I did not have New Coke on there. I did not have Derrick Van Orden trying to sneak into Eau Claire last week and giving him an earful on that. We did not say much about Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley accepting tens of thousands of dollars in trips during her time on the bench. And we have not really gotten into the Trump-Zelensky meeting and him attacking mail-in voting, though we will get to that with Dan Shafer in our 8 o'clock hour. So what I think we're going to be talking about this hour, unless, again, I need to give Parker Olson a history lesson and we have to throw the script out the window again, is we'll be talking to Dan Hagan from WJFW, Newswatch 12 in Rhinelander, and we'll be talking to former legislator Fred Clark, who now lives way up north and had quite an online column directed toward Wisconsin Republicans who were sending sternly worded messages to Canada that the wildfire smoke was such a bother to them. And Fred Clark's response was just great, and I asked him to come in at 7:30, and we'll talk more about that. But first, let's talk about the weather that we've got right now. And what's obstructing our view is not wildfire smoke this time. It's just good old-fashioned fog, because there's been a lot of rain, a lot of moisture out there. And Brittany Merlot is here to tell us more about that, and hopefully the drier details of what lies ahead. Right, Brittany?
Yes, a much better forecast for you today.
Good.
Just besides that dense fog advisory up northwest until 9 o'clock today. Hayward, Rice Lake, Eau Claire visibility is pretty bad for you. Otherwise, still very soggy out there. We got a good 4 to 8 inches of rainfall that fell in pockets from I-80 to I-88, where some of the heaviest storms hit yesterday with torrential rainfall. So a lot of basements do have some water in there. We are looking at some cropland flooding as well. The rivers are rising too. Fox River at New Munster, Kickapoo, the Trempealeau, and Black Earth Creek over by Madison. It has just hit record levels here this morning. So flooding on the rivers is still going on today. We're also looking at Lake Michigan, very rowdy. Beach hazard statement out there. 3 to 5 foot waves from Milwaukee into Racine and Kenosha. I would avoid the beaches there. Be careful. But we do have this high pressure system that settled in. The cold front has cleared the state. We've got more and more sunshine peeking out by this afternoon. Calmer winds. The only thing that could happen today is maybe a spotty sprinkle. And I think that'll stay more towards the north this morning. And then a chance kind of moves over towards Lake Michigan this evening as the winds start to shift off the lake. So a lake breeze expected later and a few spotty showers. But otherwise, highs today comfortable in the mid 70s to low 80s. Much crisper conditions moving in, that humidity leaving us alone. And we've got this high pressure system here all week. Our next chances of rain, real rain rolling through, isn't until Friday. And behind that, it kind of feels like fall over the weekend.
Well, it's funny that you would say that because that's exactly what Rob is saying from Tigerton. Looks like an autumn-type weather that is coming to wrap up the month of August. Good morning from Tigerton. Rob writes, it's cloudy and 61 degrees. Picked up 0.6 of an inch of rain yesterday. Work around the home and some paperwork for my mowing jobs. Today they're mowing jobs in Wittenberg. Let's see. He also said, as we talked a lot about New Coke last hour, he said, I am strictly on a diet Sundrop. Mountain Dew and Mellow Yellow is too sweet. So it's diet Sundrop for him. Not Mountain Dew, not Mellow Yellow. Nope. He's in Tigerton. Of course you love your Sundrop.
You have to. Yeah.
Yes. That's great. Let's see. And Brittany was right on the money with where the heavy rain set up. So
thanks, Rob.
There you go. So that was really nice. And let's see what else was in the mailbag. I asked people about, to help educate Parker about New Coke, and
we're still on this.
Well, because again, people responded. Brittany, were you aware of the whole thing with New Coke back in the mid 1980s? Had you heard of it?
Is that when the recipe changed?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's when the recipe changed.
I had heard.
See, she knew that's when the recipe changed. Anyway, from Jim in Brookfield on the text line, he writes, in the mid 80s, New Coke was launched, tasted just like Pepsi. I remember the Pepsi ads that said the other guy just blinked. Lori and Hayward, good morning, Pat. I remember when Coke changed its product, and at the time I was an avid Coke drinker. My sister was an avid Pepsi drinker. Well, a month or so later, we met each other, and she was drinking Coke and I was drinking Pepsi. Neither of us realized that we'd made the change as the original Coke disappeared. From Dave in New Berlin, I recall what happened was New Coke was later rebranded as Coke 2 when Coca-Cola Classic was launched. Yes, Parker, this gets even sillier. When Coke went back to the original formula, the New Coke, they branded it as Coke 2, like it's a movie sequel. and it was Coke 2 for years. Yes.
Oh, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. And then this is why I love Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Come for the soda talk. Stay for the truth talking about Derrick Van Orden. Okay. Well, see, we've got that. And Mathers, Luke Mathers, I don't fault Parker for not knowing about a pop culture reference that's old enough to be his father.
Pop culture.
Pop culture. Oh, Brittany, you caught that.
All right.
There we go.
Luke's on it.
Thank you, Brittany. We'll talk to you next hour.
Sounds good.
As always, we invite you to join us at Up North News on our website, upnorthnewswi.com. You can subscribe to our newsletters. You can also check us out on social media. There's a lot going on there. As Sharita Booker, our social media manager, every week gives me a rundown of some of the more popular stories from the past week. Now, to nobody's surprise, the flash flooding in Milwaukee was far and away one of our most engaged posts on social media. But there were other things as well, like, George Webb. George Webb restaurants, 23 of them tomorrow in the Milwaukee area, are going to be giving away free burgers from 2 until 6 tomorrow afternoon. And I understand they've also given out all the free vouchers that they were going to be giving for people who want to get burgers later on. So that was a very popular post on Facebook. On Instagram, there's a story about Ryan Sterned, a beer vendor at Brewers games, who has announced his candidacy for governor. And there was a popular post about the Milwaukee Bucks' Bobby Portis Jr., who's long been involved in the fight against hunger and his work with Feeding America. And that includes leading the PB&J Challenge, which raised millions of sandwiches for kids, and funding something like 185,000 meals through the Bobby Portis Foundation. So again, that was one of our more popular posts. You can read all of what we do all across social media. We are on Blue Sky now too, as well, if you're looking for an alternative to the dumpster fire, formerly known as Twitter, and of course Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're there. We're everywhere. So come follow Up North News along the way. So yeah, as I was saying last hour, we're going to get into some of the other discussions about things that were in the news, and they included a story from Dan Bice in the Journal-Sentinel about State Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley. And this is about the trips that are taken by politicians and elected officials like justices. And there's conferences that you can go to, There were conferences that I went to as a state legislator, but those things were pretty much official business, some things that were covered by the legislature, some things that you had to pay on your own if you wanted any extras to go along with it. That's a little different than, liberal or conservative outside groups or think tanks paying for your travel. And according to the Dan Bice story, he writes that since being appointed to the court by former Governor Scott Walker, Rebecca Bradley has reported that several conservative groups or legal centers have picked up nearly $52,000 in lodging, meals, airfare, and other expenses so she could attend 20 out-of-state conferences and seminars since 2015. No other sitting justice reported receiving even a third of Bradley's travel expenses that were covered by outside groups. And yes, this does have Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito vibes, very much so, with trips to Alaska, Hawaii, Florida, Utah, Colorado, Puerto Rico, Laguna Beach, California, and more. So Rebecca Bradley issued a statement that defended the trips and criticized her potential opponent, appeals court judge Chris Taylor, who announced her own candidacy several weeks back. Next highest on what Bice calls the judicial junket list is conservative Brian Hagedorn, who has accepted $14,000 in conference and event expenses since he joined the court in 2018. At the bottom of the list is liberal Justice Jill Karofsky, who has reported 0 event expenses picked up by outside groups since she was elected to the Supreme Court back in 2020. Now, Rebecca Bradley has still not made a formal announcement on whether she is running for another 10-year term on the state Supreme Court in April of next year. Now, I am not here to tell you that all of these trips are necessarily wrong. There's a reason why they have to be disclosed. And I think all of us understand, whether it's the need for continuing education to go to a conference here and there, or maybe somebody actually, wants you to speak at a conference because of your level of expertise on a particular subject. And then for every voter, for everybody for that matter, there's a line somewhere. There's a line below which you're saying, okay, well, this comes with the job. You go to conferences and things like that. And somewhere above that line is, this seems awfully gratuitous. And in the case of Rebecca Bradley, again, as a state Supreme Court justice, it all is supposed to be reported. So now it's out there, and now there's this newspaper article about it, and now people can decide for themselves whether that's an egregious amount of travel that you're letting political outside groups pick up when you're supposed to be, a state Supreme Court justice who hears all cases fairly, even cases that might be brought by conservative legal groups. But it's all out there for the voters to decide if what Rebecca Bradley did was above board or not. At least it has to be reported, unlike the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's where all the controversy is right now with Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito and more, accepting all kinds of luxury trips. And some of them were barely reported and some were not reported at all. But there really isn't a code of ethics or any kind of a disciplinary matter. You're certainly not responsible to the voters because it's a lifetime appointment. And so when it comes out, again, this is my age. I was raised, and much of human history prior to that is that if it's been discovered that you have received this much luxury travel around the world as a U.S. Supreme Court justice, that's a scandal. And you normally feel a sense of shame and step down. But the day and age we live in now is you simply wait for attention to die down, for people to get distracted by some other story, and then you just go on as if nothing happened. And maybe that's how Clarence Thomas and Alito and the other justices have been able to get by so far, but it's no less a scandal. And there's no reason, like today's report, to remind us all that we have a court in Washington, D.C. that is fatally compromised and corrupt. A local update is next for some of you. Others will visit with Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12 and Rhinelander. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. 7:20. We apparently have made it to Mr. Hagen.
Hello. One second.
Yep. Here he comes now. It's like the transporter on Star Trek. There he is. There he is.
He used to have that sound. Oh, wow.
I've never seen Star Trek.
The Fred Flintstone jacket is back with us. This
That's
is great.
right.
Yeah.
I figured. Just like old times.
You know the outfit we're talking about, right? You've since
Yes.
looked this
Oh,
up.
yes. Yes,
Okay.
of course.
So how do you plead?
I do not know that reference.
You don't? Okay. All right. That's okay.
Wait, what?
What do you mean? How do I plead?
How do you plead? Do you look like Fred Flintstone or not in that jacket? Is it a Fred Flintstone jacket, or is there enough of a difference?
No, I would say, yeah, it's Fred Flintstone for sure. Yeah, this is a Patagonia I've had since like 2013. They just kind of last, it seems.
I think it's dashing. It's dapper. Let's see here.
So we did a pretty cool story about a Northern Highland fishery research area, and they've basically doubled fish production in a lake from restoring natural decay, like down to trees and leaves, just to improve fish habitat.
Okay.
Yeah, we did something about Trump's truth about getting rid of mail-in ballots.
Oh, good.
And how that would affect voters.
Okay.
Let's see. New pickleball courts in Pickerel.
Pickleball courts.
I went to a Renaissance fair in Bristol.
Hey,
you know that?
Nice. Yes.
15 seconds.
All right. All right, welcome back on this Tuesday. It's August 19th, and our friend Dan Hagen is here from Newswatch 12, WJFW TV. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Pat. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I see the Patagonia jacket is back out. This is nice.
right.
It's a lovely orange and black combination here that you've got for us.
60 degrees here in Rhinelander, overcast skies. It kind of seems like fall is here, but I know
We
we're
were
a ways away.
we were having that discussion earlier about maybe we're getting this early taste of the fall weather, and that's when you've done 90s as long as we have, that's totally understandable. But I also wanted to get your I wanted to get your thoughts on the comparison here of the Fred Flintstone. Is that folks watching on social media, again, it's orange and black. In the picture here, the tie is purple, but usually it's kind of that light blue of what you got going there. I mean, you kind of see it, don't you?
Maybe the designer got inspired by this. I could see it. People often say look like Scooby-Doo, or Shaggy rather. I don't know, but I'm a cartoon character apparently.
You know what? There are worse things to be compared to. Trust me.
I have been told that I look like Shaggy when my hair is long. So maybe you and I could do like
I could
a Halloween
totally
outfit
see
here.
that. Yes. Yep.
Generic white man with brown hair.
Well,
might be the
he
look.
could kind of do
If
the
I let
bowl.
the scruff come
Yeah,
out.
okay.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
you're seeing it now once he lets the hair down. Yep.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is we're all characters in our own way, and especially here in the mornings where we get to let our hair down. We're not these ruggedly handsome news anchors like Dan has to be in the evening time here. So, what kind of stories are you working on over there these days?
Well, it takes a lot of work to be ruggedly handsome. My makeup artists,
your
spend
makeup,
hours.
your team. You got a team that you spend in the chair there, don't you?
So my team, spends a couple hours making me presentable. Pat, it's kind of interesting. I don't even wear makeup on TV. I don't know if I should be admitting that, but Did you?
Yeah, I've
you were
watched
making,
your
I'm assuming.
clips. I've watched your clips. I could give you a few pointers here. Yeah, it's okay. No, there is nothing like when there's a new male reporter, and like the first time that they're maybe filling in as a news anchor, and they look back at the tape and you see the oily forehead, or you see the little red patches on the cheeks. And there's nothing like when it's kind of like walking a kid to kindergarten on the first day of school, when we would walk the reporter next door to Walgreens and we'd head over to the CoverGirl section. He says, opening his desk drawer and pulling out our little powder puff here and trying to get the right shade. Let's see, my shade here is 535 medium light is what it is. It's a CoverGirl clean matte that gets put on every day. And when it was on TV, there'd also be like a little liquid foundation on the beard, to keep that at bay. And if you miss a day, if suddenly you're rushed, breaking news or something, people write in. They're like, "What happened to you? You're very swarthy. Are you drunk?" I'm like, no, I just forgot makeup that day.
That is funny. People always say I look better in person, which I don't know how to take that, but I think it's because of my lack of makeup. I should probably wear some on TV.
A little bit never hurts to get rid of the shine.
Yeah.
But again, you and I have both seen plenty of people who overdo it, who
That's right.
looked like, maybe a little
adult.
less spackling, went into this. So.
Well, I do want to share a cool story, Pat, if you'll
Yes,
allow
please.
me. Yeah, so up here in the Northwoods, we have this Northern Highland Fishery Research Area. It's in the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest, which is DNR operated. And this research area has been doing uninterrupted research since 1946. So it's been doing it's been looking into area lakes and doing fish production kind of studies. And they did this really cool study recently on Sanborn Lake. And all they tried to do was restore like natural decay in the lake. So pretty much all the lakes nowadays, they have humans all around them, and people don't want leaves in their lake. They don't want downed trees in their lake. But they put in more than 100 downed trees into the Sanborn Lake. They let the leaves go in as well, and it doubled. Well, I shouldn't say that. Correlation does not mean causation, but
Yes.
it correlated with a doubling of fish production in the lake. And as we know, that's a huge issue nowadays. There's so much stocking going on. So some pretty promising research there with boosting fish populations.
So, that's interesting. This whole, again, restoring thing. We talked about this with the Milwaukee flash floods last week, about how they were turning, river channels into concrete channels, basically, because people didn't like the muck and the trees and the way it would flood. And so they essentially monkeyed around with Mother Nature, and, to its detriment. And there's now this move to kind of get things back to a more natural state. So this is a very nice development up there.
Yeah, pretty cool. And the next thing that they're working on, they're going to try to mimic what Mother Nature was like before climate change. Ice out time. So the time when ice is off of a lake in the spring has varied a lot more because of climate change. So they're actually going to change the temperature of the water in a few lakes to see if it will help walleye production, because a big theory is that walleyes spawn in the spring, but with this varying ice out time, they get off cycle from like zooplankton and other food that small walleye would like to eat. So they're actually going to try to change the temperature in some of the lakes to see how that impacts walleye reproduction. So that could be fascinating as well.
It is fascinating because, again, we don't get to enjoy these things if a changing climate, continues to do a number on everything from, seasonal snowfall to whether you even get ice on some of these lakes or not with the warmer winters. So I'm really happy to see these things and glad that you're following it there up at WJFW. That's Newswatch 12 in Rhinelander, where Dan Hagan follows along and is also a good sport as we talk TV makeup tips. We
right.
cover it all in just 10 little minutes every week. So
I should cover more, but
No, you're beautiful. Don't ever shave. All right. Have a great day. And we'll be back with more live from Lake Wissota here on the Civic Media Radio Network right after this. Okay, now Parker has to be Shaggy at this point. I feel like we're casting the Halloween show already.
You know what? Wow. I
What?
do have a picture of me.
Oh no! Oh no!
Pat, what would you be for the Halloween show?
What was that?
What would Pat be for the Halloween show?
Oh, there are several different.
If we dye his
there.
hair, he could be Freddy.
We're just gonna do Scooby Doo all the way.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Halloween is on a Friday this year, so I mean, if Dan's around and wants to join us on a Friday, we could have some fun with this. So,
right.
Parker's searching for the Shaggy picture for folks who just tuned in here. Are you still doing your roller skis?
I roller skied on Sunday for 12 miles. 187 days until the Birkebeiner, not that I'm counting. So I got to get in better shape.
Yep. Okay. All right, Parker, you're gonna have to share this with us later.
All right. But I'm assuming I'm booted off, so I'll see you guys later.
Hey, wait, before you go, if you want, Fred Clark, former legislator from the Baraboo area, but who now lives up in the Ashland Bayfield area.
Okay.
He is going to be joining us here shortly, and he wrote a very good column about the letter that Tom Tiffany and others sent to Canada about their wildfire smoke.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you want to stay and join in on the questions on that, you're certainly welcome to.
Okay. I shall stick around.
Okay. Here we go. Is this worth?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, same face kind of structure.
Could totally do it. Yep. So, all right. And there's Fred now. Hi, Fred.
Good morning, Pat.
Fred, this is Dan Hagan. Dan, Fred.
Dan,
Hi,
good
Pat.
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Fred, you were a legislator from the Baraboo area?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
2009 to 2014.
Okay. 2009 to 2014. And so there we go. And now, are you in Ashland?
Bayfield.
Bayfield. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. So Dan was going to stick around for the first part because he works at WJFW, and so we're kind of interested in what Tiffany had to say about wildfire smoke and everything. And then when we go to the break at 7:50, Dan, if you got you can peel off, and if you need to peel off sooner, that's fine as well. Just cut your camera, and we'll know that you're done asking questions. But otherwise, feel free to stick around. And then Fred, you and I will continue up until 8 o'clock. So what else are you working on up there apart from stuff we talked about last week and this wildfire smoke response?
Yeah, well, this week I'm hosting about 14 family members. So it's all time on the water, time outside, and making sure everybody gets fed.
Good point. And then Dan, have you, to what degree have you guys covered that letter from Tiffany and the others to Canada about wildfire smoke?
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Callahan is a legislator right now from Tomahawk, and I think he kind of spearheaded the state response to that, or
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're familiar.
Okay, so you can talk about that for a second as part of an introduction to this. Okay,
yeah.
Well, good. Well, let's do that then. Let me look that up quick. Calvin, give me his last name again.
Callahan, Callahan.
Okay, got it. There it is. Okay, good. All right, we're going to get going in about 60 seconds here. We'll see you in a bit.
Sounds good.
Money. Crime is down. It's a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. So instead of dissing that city and lying about what they've done, how about looking at how they've succeeded?
The award-winning Maggie Dawn Show, weekday afternoons from 4 until 6.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Covering the news of the day and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community, because change starts with you. Get involved.
Welcome back to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, where we
Hey,
wonder if he'll unmute.
Yeah. There was supposed to be this doubleheader today at Wrigley Field between the Brewers and the Cubs. There was one game, the makeup game from an earlier rainout, and then the second game was rained out. But in the first game, Freddie Peralta, 6 innings of one-hit shutout ball. The Cubs only got 2 hits for the entire game. The Brewers coasted to a 7-0 win in the series opener. Home runs by Bryce Terang and Caleb Durbin. And then game 2 was rained out. So once again, we're facing a day-night doubleheader at Wrigley Field because they've got to get in 5 games in 4 days. And so the first game, again, pregame at 12:45 this afternoon. And then game 2, that pregame coverage will begin at 6:30. And the weather is a lot nicer. They will almost definitely get in both games of that doubleheader, unless, of course, Chicago's again looking for a way out of it, as they seem to do sometimes with the weather. Let's talk about the weather and the climate and the changes up in Canada that have led to a summer of wildfire smoke that has affected us here in Wisconsin. Certainly, those wildfires have affected folks in Canada a lot more. They're hurting right now. These are forests that are way up north, not the kinds of things that are easily managed. And then, of course, there's a changing climate that Canada had much less to do with than, say, certain other industrial countries. But that didn't stop some politicians from complaining about it anyway. There was, for example, Congressman Tom Tiffany and other members of Congress who signed on to a sternly worded letter to Canada about the wildfire smoke and their helpful advice on what Canada could be doing differently. And Dan Hagan is sticking around with us from Newswatch 12, WJFW in Rhinelander. And Dan, the same could be said. There were state legislators that kind of wanted to play Me Too on this as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Representative Calvin Callahan is a Republican from Tomahawk, and he sent a strongly worded letter. I think he put in a formal complaint as well. Yeah, we've been dealing with that smoke for most of the summer, unfortunately.
Yeah, he wrote the letter to Lee Zeldin, the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, and the International Joint Commission, calling for an investigation into Canada's wildfire management practices. Well, it seems like we would all benefit from folks who maybe know a little bit more about the subject and could, help our Canadian neighbors to better educate some of our legislators and lawmakers here. And Fred Clark is just that kind of a person, a former state legislator from the Baraboo area who now lives up in the Bayfield area. And I saw that on Substack, he has a column entitled Our Smoky Summer, the Fine Art of Schooling Our Canadian Neighbors. And Fred, nice to have you back here again. Thanks for being here.
You bet. Morning, Pat.
You make clear in no uncertain terms what you thought of these kinds of, sternly worded letters to Canada and what it is they're exposing about their lack of knowledge when it comes to, firefighting and to woodland management. How would you describe just the overall thesis of how you describe the opinions in these letters?
Well, I to begin with, it's insulting to suggest to our neighbor to the north, which is undergoing a natural disaster of really, this is the second year in the last 3 years that Canada's had just record-breaking number of fires. And we're complaining right now about smoke around our barbecues. And not to minimize the fact that smoke impacts are real, it affects the health of many people and it is inconvenient, but imagine what the Canadians are experiencing right now. We have a long history of cooperation with Canada in firefighting and fire management. We share resources back and forth across the border all the time. Had Congressman Tiffany and his colleagues simply picked up the phone and had an hour-long phone call with Canadian Natural Resources ministers or the ambassador, they would have learned a lot and maybe would have written a very different letter if they'd been interested in it.
But instead, as you write, they instead relied on false social media posts that conflate the difference between human-caused fires with arson, and that they need to do a better job of patrolling these woods. And these woods, these are not what we typically think of as woods, or even what you'd think of in, say, southern Canada. Northern Canada is a different beast altogether, right?
That's exactly right. What we're talking about here are the boreal forests of far northern Canada that grades into the subarctic region. These are sometimes called the taiga forests, small, sparse trees, very scattered on the landscape, very different than the forest that you and I and most Americans are used to. And the key point here is that these are large roadless areas that are essentially almost impossible to access except with float planes or boats in many cases. So they seem to have this idea that the logging equipment could just be driven all around Canada to thin these woods out. In fact, most of these areas are unmanageable for a variety of reasons. And believe me, the Canadians know how to do resource management. If you want to go to British Columbia and look at the mountainsides there, they know how to log in Canada. But these areas, a totally different game. It's about half of the United States is in this kind of condition that's essentially roadless and sparsely forested and very difficult to manage. And now they're undergoing a historic drought that is leading to these wildfire conditions. The ignition sources will always be there. And it's really climate change that is driving these extreme fires that are happening all over the world. This is not unique to Canada.
So, Fred, would you point out a different solution to Canada? It seems like they know as much as they know, and they're doing they're doing everything they can. But I know in these letters they're saying that Canada could be, more active. But you're saying it's impossible for them to even actively manage.
Well, most of these areas, yes. Congressman Tiffany seems to think that there'll be loggers and every community ready to just go thin these trees if we just let them. In fact, there's no industry. There's no forest products industry in that entire region of Canada of the scale that would be needed to even do forest management. And the reason there isn't is because the trees aren't there. So that's not a possibility. Any thinning or prescribed fire that could be done to reduce fire risk is all cash out the door, hugely expensive work. And we're talking again about an area about half the size of the United States. So Canada knows full well that this is a giant natural resource challenge for them. They have a all of society approach that they're trying to take. Much of these lands are indigenous lands that are in the control of First Nations in Canada. It's a hugely complex and expensive problem to solve. I think what U.S. members of Congress should be doing is trying to understand this issue better and offering to cooperate, which is what we've always done with Canada historically.
And we are seeing that cooperation in terms of, there are firefighters from the U.S. who are going there. Folks in Canada are very grateful for that. Yeah. But we also have to be mindful that there are lessons to be learned here. And in my mind, lesson one would be not to gut the budget of the U.S. Forest Service, because what's happening there, with a changing climate, could just as easily, be our problem in some future summer.
There's the irony, Pat. Yeah, just days before this letter was sent, these representatives voted for the big, beautiful bill that, among other things, that eliminated almost all of the subsidies for renewable energy that would have helped us reduce our climate emissions in the United States, which is a key driver to climate change around the world. And they supported the Elon Musk's monkey wrenching of federal agencies, including the U.S. Forest Service. Our lead wildfire control agency has lost more than 4,000 experienced firefighters in the last 6 months. In what world does that logically make sense to do that and then send a letter like they did?
We're talking to Fred Clark, former state legislator from the Baraboo area, who now is writing and living in the Bayfield area, and talking about wildfires up in Canada that have, by the way, this isn't just a bunch of trees up north that are burning. This has dislodged or displaced, how many people? Like 40,000 Canadians have had to find new places. They've lost their homes or their communities, right?
That's right. Entire communities have been evacuated. And the only reason that number isn't larger is again, because most of these areas are very sparsely populated and mostly roadless. But entire communities have been displaced. Yep, it's been inconvenient for people in the United States, and at times it's a health risk to have that wildfire smoke coming down here. But just imagine the impact on Canadians and what they're dealing with. Let's think about our obligation to our neighbors.
That's Fred
Canadians
Clark. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Fred Clark. And I'm also joined by Dan Hagan from WJFW Newswatch 12 on this Tuesday morning here across the Civic Media Radio Network. And Dan, again, we have the wildfire smoke that's coming down from Canada, but much like 2023 when this was happening as well with a massive wildfire season, I'm sure it has sparked, no pun intended, conversation in your part of the state about, again, making sure that the resources are there to fight wildfires as they break out, in north central Wisconsin.
Yeah, and if you look at these letters sent by the legislators, climate change is not mentioned in them, right? And that's a big part of this problem, perhaps the biggest part. So I want to go back to Fred here. Fred, can you just draw a clear line for us between climate change and these fires? Because I know we've had droughts before, but what makes it different, in the in 2020s?
Yeah, well, what's driving the extremes is the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that is contributing to these climatic and weather extremes. And in this case, it's contributing to the extended drought that has these forests just tinder dry. And all it takes is a spark in many cases to set off some of these blazes. But the research on this is clear, and there is lots of climate science work that basically teases out the impact of climate change toward driving these more extreme conditions. And the take-home message is this isn't a one-off. This is what we can expect to see more of in the years ahead, and it's a global problem. This is not just a Canadian problem.
No, far from it. And the extremes, I mean, again, are self-evident. Look at the flash flooding in Milwaukee, where you've got this once in 1,000-year rainfall. We get heavier rains. We get hotter, longer droughts. You get storms that explode now in growth. Look at Hurricane Aaron right now. Went from a nothing, a tropical depression, to a Category 5 hurricane faster than any other storm. And this, Fred, is kind of our new normal, that these things are going to spread. And I'm not in any way suggesting that we're necessarily helpless about it. But I wanted to make sure that people understand that, for the moment, this is kind of a new normal, and it doesn't make sense to just say to Canada, "Hey, could you keep the smoke down over there, please?" Because it's just not very feasible. We're talking to Fred Clark, former legislator, about the situation up in Canada. We've been joined by Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12, WJFW in Rhinelander. Dan, again, it's great to catch up with you. Thanks for sticking around so we could visit with Fred, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks,
and
Dan.
we will continue here with Fred. Some of you will have a local update as well. And then in our 8 o'clock hour, we will be talking to Dan Shafer. He's the political editor for Civic Media and founder of the Recombobulation area. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, we're in a commercial break here.
All right, going well so far.
Glad we had a little extra time to talk about this here. Were there points that I didn't hit, or that we wanted to make sure to emphasize here when we come back?
Yeah, I guess only that, if we get out of the realm of politicians, the Canadian Interagency Fire Center and the United States Interagency Fire Center, they cooperate regularly. They are sharing resources back and forth. Lots of Canadians come to the U.S. to help us when we have disasters too. And I think we're putting at risk those relationships that are so important.
Oh yeah. All right. Sounds good. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. I'll see you in just a bit.
Pricing. That's double the savings on your new mattress. Plus, save even more when you upgrade to an adjustable base. At Burlow, all of our mattresses are locally crafted and backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. So hurry in and get savings on top of savings during Burlow's Mega Mattress Sale. Wake up. Sleep better. Verlo.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Public schools and private schools, when the people who are sitting to the left and to the right of me in classes, and when the professors and the TAs and the staff don't all look the same, education is promoted. You get a better sense of what the world is all about. We know that also because our Supreme Court has said so. Brown versus Board of Education, Brown versus Board of Education 2.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11.
For 75 years, the Muscular Dystrophy Association's voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
For 75 years, we've willed the impossible into existence.
For 75 years, the MDA community has pushed the science,
shifted the narrative, and established the field of neuromuscular medicine.
And until that day, when this is all a thing of the past,
you couldn't stop us if you tried.
Join us and celebrate 75 years of breakthroughs at MDA75.org.
Where working people come to talk. It's the Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about.
So welcome back at 7:52 to what would be our Way Up North segment, but we started Way Up North way too early because we wanted to spend some extra time with Fred Clark, who is way up north now in the Bayfield area, but weren't always the case as a state legislator in the Baraboo area from 2009 to 2014. So Fred, before we get back to Canadian wildfire talk and things like that, what's a nice young legislator from Baraboo doing way up north now?
Well, it's been a great place to relocate. I've always loved this part of Wisconsin. I like to sail, and it's a beautiful location here near the Apostle Islands. You honestly, it's one of the state's crown jewels of public lands, natural resources, land and water, and really enjoying life up here.
I can completely see why that is, and I can completely see why you and others were so bothered with this talk from politicians about smoke, when what they were getting at, and I didn't want to put words in your mouth too soon, but now that we've gone into this conversation a bit, I'm going to go ahead and put words into Tom Tiffany's mouth, and in response say, the answer to preventing fires is not to clear cut everything and pave it over. I know that some people would love to do that. I mean, there's not a piece of land that I don't think Congressman Tiffany wouldn't like to see strip mined at some point or paved over in the name of development. But that's really not how we like to practice things up here. And when we're talking about fire management, I know there's this focus on what they like to talk about in terms of management techniques. Mm-hmm. To me, that's just a sneaky way of saying, yeah, if you would just let, more industry in, that would solve things. And I want to make clear, I'm not talking about let's just have old growth forests with no management. There's room for a balanced approach here.
Well, there is. And there are many parts of the Western United States, for example, where selective thinning can be an important tool in reducing fire risk. We know that. The science is there. But it's not a one size fits all. It's not a solution that works everywhere or even could be applied everywhere. And in northern Canada, again, these are very sparsely forested areas where there's trees and there's wetlands and there's shrubs. There's a ton of carbon stored in these lands, but most of it's below ground. So it's a totally different set of tools in the toolkit, and not as many tools available to help manage this problem. And, the irony here is that the president's budget, for example, well, not only have more than 5,000 people left the United States Forest Service in the last 6 months, many of them were experienced wildfire people who now we've lost their expertise and their skill set. They also want to eliminate the research program in the U.S. Forest Service, which most people don't know about. You think about national forests, but the United States Forest Service research program is the largest natural resource research program in the world, and does important work on wildlife and climate change. And they want to eliminate that too. So we're just stumbling our way into this future with no resources, with no knowledge. And here we're going to go try to tell the Canadians how they ought to do it.
And by the way, it's not just that one, as you make note, by President Trump withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords. Yep. It also helps dismantle other climate programs and renewable energy initiatives, including all kinds of other research that was being done on climate science. And now, again, all of that wouldn't stop this year's fires, but right. It would certainly help find ways to stop making the problem worse, but also to mitigate the impacts that are going to be happening for the near future because of a changing climate.
Yeah, we need a long vision. We need science and research and just strategic thinking about this question more than ever. And at the very moment when we need these things the most, we're walking backwards. I've called this the J.D. Vance School of Diplomacy. Basically, screw everything up at home, and then let's go tell our neighbors how they ought to do it better.
It is something that we've seen in many recent events, and some that we're going to be talking about in our next hour with Dan Shafer as well from the Recombobulation area. But yeah. Fred, I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us about that. It's been great having you make this relocation up here, and another time down the road, I want you to come back here, and we're going to talk about 2026, some of the people that you're talking to up there, and what the political landscape is going to look like. Because I may be wrong, but I think there's still a little bit of a political animal in you as well. And I don't doubt that there's going to be conversations about how that's all going to go to make sure that there's good representation up in the Northwoods next year.
Well, thanks, Pat. We've been having a lot of conversations throughout northern Wisconsin. And what's really clear right now is that I think people are really primed to reevaluate what good representation means here in northern Wisconsin and honestly, what democracy means.
Oh, without a doubt. Fred Clark, great to visit with you. Thank you again so much. Have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Pat. You too. See you soon.
Thank you. Yep. So Fred is part of our Way Up North segment that we started a few weeks back. And it was actually Fred and a few other folks who reached out to me and said, hey, you need more voices from our part of the state, from, Hayward and Ashland and Bayfield and Superior, places like that. And I said, great. Come help me. And so we've had this wonderful cycle of voices. There was Jeff Renneke last week from the Friends of the Apostle Islands talking about the wave buoy system that is helping keep boaters safe up there as well. So we are always looking for your suggestions. And by the way, not just for Way Up North. It's kind of like Up North News itself, where people say, are you guys just do news up north? No. We're America's Up North. All of Wisconsin is America's Up North. And so we're looking for stories all over Wisconsin to do. So whether it's way up north or whether it's way down in places like Lake Geneva and Janesville, Beloit, which, by the way, for the rest of the country, that's still up north. There's plenty of people that think of Lake Geneva. They're going there. Hey, we're going up north to Wisconsin. Wherever you'd like to see some stories done, have some ideas for guests or topics, we would love to have your suggestions. Get into the comment sections on Facebook or YouTube, or send us an email, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. When we come back, we're going to be talking in our next hour to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area about Congressman Bryan Steil. And is he sending signals that he'd like to help President Trump, who once again signaled that if it were up to him, he'd get rid of mail-in balloting? I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
And great conversation. A Civic Media station.
How about that description? Can we use that description?
ABC News. News. I'm Sherry Preston. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says he is ready to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The call made after the meeting with European leaders. Zelensky on Monday at the behest of President Trump. ABC's Rachel Scott's at the White House with more on how it happened.
The White House says the meeting was wrapping up. They were about to go into the Oval Office anyway. And so Trump gets up, he leaves, he picks up the phone, he calls Putin, and he reads him in on exactly what he discussed, not only with Zelensky, but also with these European leaders as well. And then after he hangs up, he sends out a social media post. And he says that they now have a set of next steps.
What those next steps are exactly still being worked out. Federal judge in Miami has issued a split decision over legal rights of detainees at the detention center in the Florida Everglades. Part of the suit dismissed, part sent to a different jurisdiction. Hurricane Erin still churning in the Atlantic. This is ABC News.
As Wisconsin is dropping a line in your favorite fishing spot, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson. In a story we've been following, the woman authorities say is responsible for a deadly crash that killed 2 teens is now back in the Dane County Jail. 30-year-old Noelia Martinez is charged with homicide by intoxicated use of a vehicle, among other counts. The Dane County Sheriff's Office says she was driving drunk last month and hit a car carrying Hallie Helgeson and Brady Heiling of Minnesota. Both of them died. Martinez was arrested and was in the Dane County Jail until she made bond last week, according to court records. The Dane County Sheriff's Office notified the Department of Homeland Security, and federal authorities from DHS arrested her. But then a local judge raised her bond in the crash case to $5 million. After that, she was taken into the Dane County Jail again. This case has become a lightning rod for the debate over illegal immigration. Homeland Security had requested a detainer on Martinez, essentially asking the Dane County Sheriff's Office to hold her for them. Those requests are not legally binding, and Dane County does not honor them. That caused a spat between the Sheriff's Office and Homeland Security. Leaders at Homeland wanted to deport Martinez and called Dane County a sanctuary community. But Sheriff Calvin Barrett said giving her a taxpayer-funded flight back to Honduras and releasing her as a free woman isn't justice, and he wants her to stand trial. Meanwhile, years' worth of work on Wilson Street in downtown Madison is finally finished. It's taken about a decade of planning, designing, and actual construction to redo the Wilson Street corridor, which leads to Monona Terrace. They've redone the street, added bike lanes, and done other updates. Altogether, the project cost about $18 million. There's a ribbon cutting to celebrate all these improvements on Wednesday. For more local and state news, just head to our website, WMDXradio.com. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
Love returns in Green Bay. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports NFL. Jordan Love was back at quarterback just 1 week after having thumb surgery, throwing passes in a non-contact drill. Malik Willis will handle the offense when they host the Seahawks this Saturday.
It's way more cool than, trying to just get in there and, swim. When you can swim comfortably and you know what's going on and you understand what we're trying to accomplish with each and every concept or play call. I think it's been more fun just to see how coaches call it and what are they thinking, and it makes the game just that more impactful.
Baseball, the Brewers and Cubs hope to play 2 games today at Wrigley Field after the nightcap of their doubleheader was rained out last night. Caleb Durbin had a home run in yesterday's 7-0 shutout victory in Chicago. Fans chanting, "Let's go Brewers." Freddie Peralta with the win.
Yeah, Freddie was awesome. Nothing new there. A lot of fun getting the "Let's go Brewers" chants, and then the Cub fans trying to boo over them.
That's the Brewers. Caleb Durbin with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
As Wisconsin is brats on the grill for a tailgate, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
A little patchy morning fog today, otherwise partly cloudy with a high right around 83 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy will drop to 63 for an overnight low. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a high right around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 64.
The Cap Times Idea Fest is back with important local and national topics September 8th through the 13th in Madison. This year's guest speakers include Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, former Georgia lawmaker and voting rights activist Stacey Abrams, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. Idea Fest will also feature some of the nation's leading journalists, from Maureen Dowd of the New York Times to Evan Osnos of the New Yorker, along with former Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson and Jennifer Rubin. Tickets at CapTimesMediaFest.com.
The John and Gordy Show.
Jeff Bezos skipped the independent testing and animal trials and went right to rubber stamping lab-grown salmon.
Nothing wrong with that.
They skipped real testing and just took wild type's word. They put them in molds, and then they just kind of...
molds? What?
Just pour the gel into a mold, let it harden, and just throw it out there
salmon.
as a piece of salmon.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX. And the Civic Media app.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
That would be me. It's 8:06 on a Tuesday morning, August 19th. Nice to have you back here up north, live from Lake Wissota, where the fog has lifted. At least here, the sunshine is out. Everything is lush. It is lush and green out here, and we're going to talk about the forecast with meteorologist Brittany Merlot in just a moment. First, a little note that tomorrow, the show here will not be here in the Lake Wissota studio. We will be live from Wisconsin Rapids. Our friends at WFHR are celebrating their 85th year of broadcasting to the Wisconsin Rapids community, and so they're having a big party this week to celebrate it, and so we wanted to go out and be part of the celebration. Well, the celebration isn't until later, so I guess I'm just part of the setup crew, but hey, whatever they need. So 6 to 9 a.m. tomorrow, I will be live from WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids. Looking forward to talking to folks all about that. But now let's get to that weather forecast, and meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Chad Holmes will be along in just a sec as well. So Brittany, the fog lifting here, I'm guessing that's not a universal thing just yet.
No, not just yet. A lot of us are still in that blanket of fog, cloudy skies nonetheless. Pat is very lucky to see some sunshine, and that's going to be the case today. More sunshine peeking out far northwest, more clouds hanging on along Lake Michigan. Speaking of Lake Michigan, big waves, 3 to 6 feet out there, so beach hazard statement for Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha area. Rip currents, pretty dangerous out there. There's a lot of water that is rising, right? Those rivers are rushing too. Those currents are pretty strong right now. We're seeing some flooding far south in the state. Beloit got hit pretty hard with nearly 4 inches of rainfall yesterday. And of course, a lot of areas seeing some basement flooding, cropland flooding. And again, those rivers are rising today. So some of them are in a flood warning, especially south and east in the state. And as we go through the rest of this week, will we have relief? Yes, finally. A high pressure system is moving in. So we do have spotty showers or light sprinkles possible today, especially by the Great Lakes. A little bit more inland, you have less of a chance, but by tomorrow, the high pressure settles in, clears the skies, bright and blue for both tomorrow, Thursday, and for a lot of Friday before another front swings by. So dry conditions are expected, comfortable too, with winds out of the north. We'll be in the mid 70s to low 80s today, kind of hanging around that 80-degree temperature for the rest of the week as well. And enjoy it because summer is limited. We are going to see some fall-like temperatures moving in by the weekend. It's going to be crisp, refreshing.
Crisp and refreshing. That's one way to put it. Yes. Or summer going away. Boo.
Yep, I know.
But I'm glad to have it so bright. Yesterday, it was cloudy, gray, all day. And I recall telling Sherry a couple of different times, normally the gray, gloomy weather makes me gloomy. It's kind of contagious. Right. And I said, but things are going along. I had a lot to do yesterday. And so I was just plugging along. Everything's fine. And then along about 6, 7 o'clock last night, I was like, okay, this is old. Now I just
Yeah.
I feel like the weather just so gray and gloomy. So to have the sun out like this in Chippewa right now, I could get used to this for a little while.
I can tell in your talk, and you got a little like, step to it now. You're like, whoop, whoop, the
Yes,
sun's
exactly.
out.
Well, it's also because Chad Holmes is here. So,
Yeah, of
the
course.
discussion's about to get spicy. So thank you, Brittany. Have a wonderful
You're
day.
welcome. You too.
All right. I'm really glad Chad Holmes is here right now because we're going to talk about the case of the mayor and the heist of an absentee ballot drop box. And I'm glad that we've had a little bit of time to process this news. And I know I mentioned it briefly on the show yesterday, or maybe it was Friday. I can't remember now. Chad, good morning. I'm going to restate all this again, so I better get the good morning out of the way right away.
Good morning.
You're good?
I'm good.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
For those who've missed it, the mayor of Wausau, a conservative who loves spouting Republican talking points about not being a fan of absentee ballot drop boxes, who then took it upon himself to remove an absentee ballot drop box temporarily from its location outside of City Hall, against the expressed wishes of others, but who did it unilaterally, even though he was not authorized to do it unilaterally, is still awaiting any consequences for this beyond the city's ethics board, beyond the State Department of Justice investigation. The Marathon County District Attorney wanted to avoid a conflict of interest and called for a special prosecutor. The special prosecutor has been named. It's Republican Fond du Lac District Attorney Eric Toney, the last Republican to run for Attorney General against Josh Kaul in 2022. The same Eric Toney who agreed with the state Supreme Court when it was conservative majority and said drop boxes were illegal and had to go away. Eric Toney is on record agreeing with the notion of drop boxes being illegal. Chad Holmes, do you feel like this is going to be a special prosecutor who's going to bring consequences to Wausau Mayor Doug Denny for the unauthorized removal of an absentee ballot drop box? I don't.
It certainly appears to be somebody that would be very sympathetic to everything that Doug Denny has said and done since late September of 2024.
Look how well we've calmed down since then. Because, like I said at the time, was Pam Bondi not available to do this investigation? I mean, come on.
Another point that I always see in these situations, whether, in this situation, you can go back to when Donald Trump was investigated by Robert Mueller. You can go back to way back. You can go back to when Bill Clinton was investigated by Ken Starr. Why is it always that a Republican is put in charge of these investigations? If there is a Democrat who is being investigated, well, you have to have a Republican to do the investigation.
Right.
If there is a Republican who's being investigated, you got to have a Republican do the investigation. Why is there every time? I can't remember. I should have done a little research on this before I came on with you this morning, but when is the last time that there was an independent or Democrat named a special prosecutor in these cases? Why is there this default that we have to name a Republican all the time? It feels like, again, the finger is on the scale. It's pushing down on that scale, which is supposed to be exactly balanced.
And the funny thing is when you mention Ken Starr, I mean, that triggers all kinds of memories of a guy who was, I mean, long before there was, Michael Gableman at the Wisconsin end of things. When you talk about renegade, rogue special prosecutors.
I forgot Michael Gableman.
Ken Starr, I mean, he created the mold that is still being used to this day. A guy who was supposed to be investigating a land deal in Arkansas, but allowed himself the latitude to go all the way to, things that Bill Clinton was doing that were wildly inappropriate in the White House, but had nothing to do with the original investigation. But because Ken Starr was, again, a politician doing the investigation, it took us in that direction. So let me bring it back to Eric Toney and again give the same disclaimer. I'm not saying that the fix is in and that Eric Toney is going to let Doug Denny walk scot-free. It won't surprise me, but I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. Eric Toney has a chance to show some independence. I'm sure he'd like to run for Attorney General again, or maybe even governor. And so are you going to take those political ambitions and play to your base and let Doug Denny get a slap on the wrist at best? Or are you going to show that you actually stand for election integrity and nobody nobody should ever move a ballot drop box without authorization.
I'm not going to speak specifically of Eric Toney. I'm going to throw it back at you. How many politicians, and we've seen them, I think, of all political stripes, are willing to give up their future political ambitions in order to do the right thing in a situation like this that would specifically hurt for lack of a better term, a fellow traveler when it comes to your political beliefs? I don't think it's a fair situation even for Eric Toney to be in, because he is still a young man. He is not Robert Mueller in the twilight of his career. I mean, you could argue whether or not, again, he's the right guy to investigated Trump 6-7 years ago, whatever it's been now. But Eric Toney is a guy that definitely has political ambitions. So if you're looking for the right person to investigate this that has no excess baggage of any kind when it comes into this investigation, that is not the guy you appoint.
No, once again, once you take out Marathon County for the DA there, and let's just set aside Eric Toney, that's 70 other counties. And I know DAs are busy people. They have big caseloads. So I'm not saying there were 69 other choices, but it wasn't zero that we had to go with the last guy to run for attorney general on the Republican ticket. And the thing is, here's what's still missing for me, Chad. And I really did try to look through all the news coverage and find this, but the difference between active voice and passive voice. And all of the coverage was in passive voice, that Eric Toney has been named special prosecutor. Who? I never saw a who. Did Eric, did the Marathon County DA specifically ask for him? Did the state attorney general's office specifically ask Eric Toney to take on the case? I still don't know exactly how this came to be, other than he has been named the special prosecutor. So I don't even know who to ask these questions of.
That is a very good question, and process matters.
Yes.
Because in this case, that is a rather significant moment in this case.
Well, let me do this, and I'm now going to cast aspersions on Josh Call that may not necessarily be fair. But if that call came from the State Department of Justice, and Josh Call is the state attorney general, then people would be right to say, why did the Democratic attorney general sign off on having his last opponent, a Republican, be the special prosecutor of a case against ostensibly a fellow Republican when it comes to their thoughts on absentee ballot drop boxes? If this has got any kind of a trail through Josh Call, that's not a good look for him. Again, I don't know that it is or not. So I'd really like to know where where the process goes, like you said.
Well, absolutely. And I think that is definitely a question that I would say potential Democratic gubernatorial candidate Josh Call might be asked in the very near future. I would hope that anybody that has that opportunity in the very near future says that or asks that. And again, I thought the DOJ, the state DOJ, has been investigating this for how many months now? And now we're at the point we're going to appoint I mean, there is something that just does not smell right again. And this seems to be, again, where it comes to people with political capital, like the mayor of Wausau, or like other political figures.
I'm just looking
it's treated differently than a normal investigation.
I'm looking at Robert Mueller and Merrick Garland and now this, and saying, why do these things take so long? Chad Holmes from 98.9 WXCO catches local cut-ins, and follow him through the Civic Media website and the app. Thank you, Chad. Have a great day.
You too, Pat.
Still ahead, a local update for some of you, and then when we're all together in about 15 minutes, we'll be talking to Dan Shafer of the Recombobulation area. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
And we have a full minute left to go here, Pat.
Oh, did we? Oh,
yeah, we do.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
you're on the old clock, aren't you?
I am. Boy, put your camera back on over there, young man. Let's as I remind people that again. It's good. It's good. Sorry, I was looking at here. I was looking at bringing up the old social media video here to let people know that we're on Blue Sky, and now we're on all the others, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And as I was looking for the video to call up, I just let the clock run away from me, in the sense that I looked at the old clock as well. But let me tell you, we are on all the aforementioned social media channels, and we've got baseball again today. Doubleheader, Brewers and Cubs, game 1 pregame at 12:45. Now, I'm still Pat Kreitlow. This is still the Civic Media Radio Network, and now it's time to go. And now, a primal scream. Ah!
Ah! It's okay.
No, it's not. But it just tells you how well I learned it the first time.
You know what? Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
You did your job so well.
I did my job so well that the old dog can't learn new tricks. That's great. Yep. Oh, well.
It happens to the best of us.
But mostly to the worst of us. So.
Well.
Hey, if you miss a program or if you want to go back and say, did he really screw that up again? I want to listen back. You can by simply going to Spotify or Apple and subscribing to us as a podcast. That way you can catch us anytime, either instead of, because you couldn't listen live, or again, to listen back to a favorite guest or segment or interview. We would love to have you along as a subscriber. Up North News is part of Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy news network with all kinds of newsletters and video series and podcasts. And one of those newsletters that keeps an eye on MAGA extremism is called American Freak Show by Nina Burley. And this week, her column is entitled Trump World Weenies and the Rock-Ribbed Ladies Holding Them Up. And so reading a bit here from Nina Burley's newsletter, American Freak Show, says here it's talking about the blonde, conspicuous cross-wearing women like Attorney General Pam Bondi, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, political strategist Susan Wiles, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Agriculture Secretary and longtime hard-right conservative think tank figure Brooke Rollins, lawyer and media star Janine Pirro, profane right-wing influencer Laura Loomer, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, media personality and lawyer Megyn Kelly, and White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt are the current de facto standard bearers for empowered American women. Nina writes, these women and their regime are quantifiably setting women back on many fronts. And one need only look at before and after photos of every woman over the age of 40 in Trump's orbit to know that they remake themselves physically to conform to his archaic caricature of femininity. The bargain that these women make with the sexual assaulter in chief is this: pretend that he and his men are actually protectors of women in exchange for personal gain and access to power. During the last weeks of his 2024 campaign, Trump was explicit on this in a menacing way, declaring he would be the protector of women, quote, whether they like it or not. Protectors like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who recently shared a CNN clip in which a pastor from his nominally Christian sect said that women shouldn't have the right to vote. The 19th Amendment should be repealed, and women should, quote, submit to their husbands. Hegseth is a mascot for Trumpy MAGA men. The sole upside, Nina Burley writes, of the current assault on our rights is that it must energize a new generation of young women who are having to relearn an old lesson. In one of the oldest conflicts in human history, the war between the sexes, women can never leave the front lines unattended. That again is from the newsletter American Freak Show by Nina Burley. Head over to couriernewsroom.com to learn more. All right, there was this meeting yesterday between President Donald Trump and Ukraine leader Vladimir Zelensky. Zelensky this time was wise enough to bring friends, representatives from basically every major European country and coalition to be there to put up a united front to say that they want Donald Trump to live up to America's promise to be a full partner with Europe in staving off a wave from the Soviet Union. Oh, I'm sorry, Russia. But Russia that would like to be the Soviet Union again. It was interesting that Zelensky had to come to the White House. I didn't see, the kind of red carpet treatment that Trump gave to Russia's dictator, Vladimir Putin, back on Friday in Alaska. There wasn't a limousine ride. There wasn't the military flyover. At least there wasn't the browbeating anyway, as happened back in February. But it is worth noting, as the New York Times puts in its coverage, that things yesterday did not go exactly according to plan, as Trump always seems to do in taking questions from an increasingly friendly White House press corps, meaning he's kicked out the reporters he doesn't like and has stocked them with friendlier questioners. Trump used that time to talk about all kinds of other topics: crime in Washington, D.C., his media coverage, mail-in ballots, Democrats, transgender athletes, and more. Trump went so far as to talk to on the phone Vladimir Putin while he was still meeting with Zelensky and European leaders in the White House. Trump said, President Putin wants to find an answer too. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. As for an eventual meeting between Putin and Zelensky and Trump, Putin has made no secret of the fact that he does not consider Zelensky to be a legitimate president, since the war has delayed elections in Ukraine, which is really something coming from the guy who repeatedly altered the Russian constitution in order to remain as president. In other words, he's an actual dictator. But he got the red carpet treatment last Friday, whereas Zelensky again had to come hat in hand and thank Trump for the opportunity to buy more military assistance rather than what was given during the Biden administration. It's a dynamic that does not lend itself to a ceasefire. Trump, again, rather poo-pooed the idea of a ceasefire, which makes sense because even as the talks were getting going, Russia continued its attacks on Ukraine's major cities through drones and attacks on the battlefield as well. There is no other way to deal with Putin than to stand up for him. The talks yesterday took an unfortunate turn about swapping land for peace. And in the end, it may come to that, to at least buy a little security and save some lives. But it isn't made any better by a president who reports back to the dictator of Russia in the middle of his talks with European leaders and Zelensky. We'll talk to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area coming up in just a bit here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Mr. Shafer, how art thou?
Mr. Kreitlow.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I'm
You
just
all
doing
back
a little.
and settled in again after the big trip?
I am mid recombobulation. That's for sure.
Okay, sounds good. All the press passes behind you.
That's right.
Which is the oldest, first, fondest?
Ooh, let's see. 1 second here. I'm just posting the live stream link on my Twitters.
Okay.
Let's see. I have a Milwaukee Bucks press pass from 2015 on there,
okay.
so I think that's a good one. I haven't dug out the really old ones. This is most of the stuff that you see behind me is from last year.
Okay.
Mostly just running from campaign press pit to campaign press pit with the RNC and the DNC and the everything else. But I had a couple. I think the Bucks one is probably the oldest on there from when I was at Milwaukee Magazine. But I've got some really old ones going back to college. Might have my White House press pass from 2011 when Barack Obama came to town.
Wow.
When I was at Biz Times Milwaukee. That might be the oldest one I have that I've really kept. So,
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Any other late adds to today's list?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we're in good shape then. All right. 45 seconds then.
All right.
You are just about 30 minutes away from Matt and Air on Air here across the Civic Media Radio Network. Todd Alba will be stopping by to visit with Jane and Greg at 9:30. Dr. Ben Weston, the Chief Health Policy Advisor for Milwaukee County, will be visiting the show just after 10 a.m. And then later today on the Maggie Dawn Show from 4 to 6, Angela Lang is guest co-host in the 4 o'clock hour. And in the 5 o'clock hour, Dr. Melinda Brennan, Executive Director of the Wisconsin ACLU, discussing how Wisconsin sheriff's offices are profiting off of Donald Trump's ICE. So all that and more coming up on Civic Media. To learn more, head to civicmedia.us. Well, one of the things that Donald Trump talked about when he was meeting with Vladimir Putin and then with Volodymyr Zelensky was mail-in balloting, of all things, and saying that he is again going to go after mail-in balloting because it's rigged. It's, you can't have a fair election with it, however he put it. And he said he heard that from, of all places, Vladimir Putin, the dictator of Russia, who questioned, how can you have mail-in balloting? A guy that has rigged his own elections for over 2 decades. And so, again, essentially getting marching orders from Putin is what's led Donald Trump to once again say that he's going to attack a cornerstone of democracy. Mail-in balloting, according to an article by Molly Beck in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, was used in some way, shape, or form, either mail-in or absentee in-person balloting, by 750,000 Wisconsin voters in 2022. It's something that has proven to work, and yet we have to go through this all over again. So let's hit that and other topics with the political editor from Civic Media and the founder of the Recombobulation Area, our friend Dan Shafer. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mr. Kreitlow. Thank you, as always, for having me on the show on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow.
Thank you. It's nice to have you here, though I will admit I'm weary. We are again having to defend democracy, and a core value of it is making it easier to vote, making it easier to participate for all who are qualified to do so. This, to quote one Todd Alba, this, or is that Jane Matnair? I'm sorry, get it with Jane Matnair. This shouldn't be a thing. And yet here we are.
And yet here we are once again. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty awful anti-democratic, small d democratic things happening all over the place right now when it comes to the Trump administration, whether it's encouraging states to gerrymander their congressional maps, or we're seeing the latest with the push to end mail-in balloting, not so coincidentally right after the Russian dictator said as much as well. This is pretty frightening. This is this is why so many times in the election last year is that people were saying you need to vote for Kamala Harris, vote against Trump to save democracy. Well, we're seeing all of these examples right now of attacks on democracy that are happening from the Trump administration. To say it's troubling is absolutely an understatement.
And while certainly not in any way an explicit endorsement of this, we have noted in the past that Congressman Bryan Steil from the 1st District has talked about the need to protect, quote unquote, election integrity. And he put out another similar statement recently. And it does lead to this concern that, whether he and other Wisconsin members of Congress are going to be complicit, I would dare say accomplices, in this plot to undermine this key part of democracy. I feel that this is a very important thing for people to keep their eye on, is to watch how Republican members from the Wisconsin congressional delegation, whether and how they act on a stance like this from the president.
Yeah, I mean, and if history is any guide to us here, I don't think we should expect to see any pushback from any of the Republicans in Congress when it comes to really anything that Donald Trump is saying as president. And so, it's, I think Steil has a pretty high-ranking job in the House. I believe it's the administration committee, which oversees a lot of federal elections. And so, this is they're going to try to do his bidding in some way or another when it comes to what's happening for the midterms. And we're already seeing it with the push for states to gerrymander. You know, Texas has certainly been in the news over the past few weeks, but there was news last night that he's pushing Indiana to also gerrymander their congressional maps to bring more seats to Republicans. And so whether it's the gerrymandering, whether it's these attacks on mail-in voting, and again, like just to reiterate, the attack on mail-in voting, this is going to make it harder to vote for people who are serving in the military overseas, people who have disabilities, or older folks who might have certain mobility concerns. So this is going to limit legal voting for a whole lot of people. And, the goal should be the opposite. The goal should be to bring more and more people into the voting process, make it easier for people to vote safely and securely. And you know what? Mail-in balloting proved to do that in the last election. Like here in Wisconsin, Republicans really promoted that as a way to, kind of counter what Democrats had been doing to, Democrats were voting in higher numbers with mail-in balloting, particularly during the pandemic, and now we're seeing the attack on that, just as we're seeing attack on all kinds of legal voting. I wouldn't be surprised to see another push relating to some immigration issues, or however Trump might want to frame that as well. So we are going to, I think, between now and November 2026, we're going to be seeing a whole lot of attacks on democracy in this country, and it's going to be really important to push back in any way that we can.
And that pushback is coming from several fronts, not the least of which the fact that there are already 3 Democrats in Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district who are itching to run against Derrick Van Orden. And for one of those candidates, Becca Cook, who was the nominee last time around for the Democrats against Derrick Van Orden, she's already getting some big name help from other members of Congress who are coming into western and central Wisconsin.
Yeah, I am fascinated by the Rebecca Cook campaign right now. I think she's running such an interesting race, and I think she has this event coming up this weekend in Viroqua with Bernie Sanders. She just had an event last weekend, or maybe yesterday, I forget, I don't know the exact timing here, with the newest Michigan Senator, Alyssa Slotkin. She's been endorsed by the Blue Dogs. She was at this centrist think tank convention a couple weeks ago. So if you're looking for somebody who's actually approaching the Democratic Party wanting to have a big tent with lots of different voices for representing lots of different, kind of groups and constituencies and whatever it might be. I think what Cook is doing right now with this is really interesting. And I think with Sanders in particular, we've kind of reached this moment now where, Bernie Sanders, maybe in 2015 when he was coming on the scene as running for president as a Democratic socialist, and, the way that people had reacted to that at the time, I don't think people have the same kinds of negative or wary or divisive reactions to Sanders that maybe they once did. We're seeing in the New York mayor's race, even Andrew Cuomo is trying to campaign in certain ways to promote, a connection to Bernie Sanders or a piece of legislation that he signed. Obviously, Sanders has not endorsed Cuomo or endorsed Mamdani in that race. But it is very interesting to see the approach that Cook is taking. And really, if we're talking about Democrats needing to kind of rebuild that big tent, which is something that I've talked about a lot since the 2024 election, I think this is what it looks like. I think this is inviting people from all across the ideological spectrum to come campaign. And I'm really fascinated to see how the rest of her campaign plays out in the race to unseat Derrick Van Orden.
I lost track of how many times you said either interesting or fascinating, because look, let's call it what it is. The whole reason there are 3 Democratic candidates in this race already is that there are folks who believe that Becca Cook has been too close to the Blue Dogs, has been too close to, a moderate position when there are progressives and liberals in that district that want to be to stake a position more in line with Bernie Sanders. And yet here's Bernie Sanders now campaigning with Becca Cook. I mean, Becca has been approached by me and by other shows at Civic Media to come talk to us. She has declined those invitations, and I think perhaps it's, again, to keep up this appearance of being moderate, not beholden to the party machinery. There are definitely establishment Democrats that have preferred, either Emily Berge or Laura Benjamin, who are already in the race, which is, again, here's that word, fascinating, that Bernie Sanders is looking at this and embracing Becca Cook's candidacy. I don't know if it's a left versus center thing or if it's more of an electability thing. Has Bernie Sanders and others taken a look at the field and said, well, there may be other Democrats, but they believe that Becca Cook, as the last nominee who came close, is the one who's more electable, and we won't worry about her more moderate positions.
Right, and I do think the way she's running as, really emphasizing kind of her working class background is, certainly an extension in a certain way of kind of like Bernie Sanders progressivism. It might not be, this is the social democratic socialism or whatever you want to characterize it as. But I think that the divide in the Democratic Party is less of this progressive versus moderate that we saw maybe 10 years ago, certainly animated in that primary between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I feel like the divide in the Democratic Party right now is almost on action versus inaction, or something along those lines, or focusing on the working class versus focusing on more neoliberal friendly corporate interest, or whatever buzzwords you want to throw in there for that kind of thing. And I think even if Cook has expressed more moderate views on certain things over the years, I do think the working class connection that she has can be seen as an extension of a Bernie Sanders style of leadership.
But she had a campaign ad last year where she literally was standing in the middle of the road with a drone shot and making the case for somebody who was moderate. And for people who are closer to the far left of the party, that was a maddening image of, are you going to fight for us, or are you just going to be squishy in the middle? But for that 3rd congressional district, as Ron Kine knew as a Democrat and as Steve Gunderson knew as a Republican before him, that middle of the road is quite often the only way that road leads you to Congress.
That's right. And, it's about winning, right?
Right.
You've got to, at the end of the day, you can have all the purity tests that you want, but if you don't win, it's not going to matter. So I think, Cook outran expectations. I mean, we have to consider that piece of it as well. The fact that she outran, not only Kamala Harris, but Tammy Baldwin, who did pretty well for a Democrat in Western Wisconsin in that 3rd congressional district, and for Cook to have better numbers than each of them. I think part of that is, because Derrick Van Orden is a weak candidate, but I think also it has something to do with the campaign that Cook is running, and I think what she's doing right now, I'm going to say it again, it's very fascinating.
It is, because it is, and that's why we get to say it. We're talking to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area. Less than a minute left, so I just want to throw out proper kudos to Senator Tammy Baldwin. A lot of people during the August recess, they just disappear. Tammy Baldwin has not disappeared. She has been all over the state this month.
She has, and I think that's such a hallmark of who Tammy Baldwin is as a senator. It's that constituent services. It's getting out and talking to people in Wisconsin. Maybe she doesn't, have the big flowery speeches that go viral on C-SPAN or whatever it might be. But when she gets back to Wisconsin talking to people, that's her bread and butter right there.
She absolutely is just a road warrior during the month of August. Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area joining us. For some of you, a local update is next. For others, we will continue chatting with Civic Media's political editor. And then tomorrow, I will join you live from Wisconsin Rapids from WFHR, celebrating their 85th year of broadcasting to the Wisconsin Rapids community. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Okay, just under 2.5 minutes in the break here. And let's do that. Actually, no, let's do that and that. So we'll get to the Brewers and George Webb. Among any of the other notes here, did you want to say much about Forward Fest? I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know if you wanted to promote it or not.
No, not really. I didn't really know anything about it either. I just had it on my breakdown for the week because it was the Wisconsin Iowa was running a couple days of it.
Yeah. No, it's just it's a quiet week.
Yeah. Quiet week and then back to school. So
yep, exactly.
I could promote the upcoming column that I have about a too early assessment of the gubernatorial field here.
Okay. Got it. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Back in a minute and a half. Let's see. On the text line, you can text us anytime using the Civic Media app. This from Tiffany in River Falls. Says, speaking of up north, my husband and I have an ongoing debate about whether where we live in River Falls is actually considered northern Wisconsin. I grew up in Green Lake County, so River Falls is very north to me. But when I tell people where I'm from and I say northern Wisconsin, my husband likes to correct me and say western Wisconsin. Settle this debate for us. Where does up north Wisconsin begin? Oh, Tiffany, we can't solve that debate for you. If we did, I mean, that's half of our business model right here, is having fun over where up north begins. Because, again, the whole business model of Up North News is all of Wisconsin is America's up north. So we cover all of Wisconsin. But where is up north Wisconsin? I don't know. Let's ask Dan Shafer. He's in Milwaukee. Dan, where does up north begin for a good Milwaukee boy like you?
Oh, that's a great question.
Say the Dells. Say it, because you know everybody in Milwaukee says it. Yes,
it's
they
not
do.
the Dells. Well, everybody in Milwaukee has different definitions of what up north is.
Yeah.
You know, I like to refer. You say up north covers all of Wisconsin because up north refers to all of Wisconsin. I think we should incorporate the phrase "the deep north," like we say the deep south, in certain ways too. So I would say the deep north to me is it's less of like an actual geographical marker, and is when you're driving up north and all of a sudden you stop seeing chain restaurants and you start seeing lots and lots of trees on the borders of the highway, and there's the scenery is much more beautiful and there's so much open space and all of that. That's up north. I would say usually it's like once you get through Wausau. A little bit north of Wausau, maybe. consider up north. I don't know. Is that too Milwaukee of me to say, Pat?
Nope, that's not at all. And in fact, you actually do hit it right on the money, and I just don't have the geographical or the geological term for it or whatever it is, but it's basically the tree line. And if you look at a satellite picture of Wisconsin, you can very clearly see there's a tree line, but it's not a straight line. It kind of meanders a bit, dips south, then comes back up north. But it's the trees. You hit those trees rather than a lot of farms or cities, and you're there. But you're there in the land of George Webb. Are you going to be in line tomorrow for your free George Webb burger for that Milwaukee Brewer winning streak?
You better believe I am, Pat. You better believe I'm going to George Webb's to get my free cheeseburger. I'll bring the kids with. We'll make a whole thing of it. It's going to be a good time.
How's the city doing with all this? I mean, especially coming through the flash flooding. I noted last week that even the day after the flash flooding, they still had a sellout crowd at American Family Field. How's the vibe, as the kids like to say?
The vibes, as the kids say, around the Brewers are immaculate right now. The city is this is such a fun team, and so many people are so into this Brewers team right now. There's obviously a lot of people dealing with the flooding. I mean, we had another round of thunderstorms here last night that were so I imagine there are some people waking up today and dealing with that as well. So it's been tough for a lot of people, but this team is a really fun, enjoyable team, and I think we've got the not just the George Webb's celebration that's happening tomorrow in and around Milwaukee, but the Euchre celebration that is happening this weekend, the celebration of Bob Euchre's life, and I think Bob Costas is going to be broadcasting from Milwaukee, and there's going to be a whole thing of it. I'm going with a couple friends. We got those tickets as soon as they went on sale, so it's a great time to be a Brewers fan, that's for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. We're talking to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area, who is working on a new column, and I like how you describe the column because it really describes the political feel right now. How do you describe the column?
So I put out a call for a mailbag column before I went on vacation, and just so happened that pretty much all of the questions that people sent me were about one topic, were about the governor's race for next year. I think might have something to do with a column that I wrote earlier this summer, perhaps. But a lot of interest, I think, is certainly among Recombobulation area readers. So I characterize it as my too early assessment, my too early breakdown of the field for governor, both on the Democratic side and on the Republican side.
Because it is. I mean, by our own admission, it's way too early for this. But we also know, as we learned from the presidential race last year, it's possible for these things to start too late. So, you'd almost rather be in a place, especially if you're at Sarah Rodriguez, this is a good place to be right now. I mean, David Crawley, the Milwaukee County executive, has talked about jumping in, but he hasn't yet. Senator Kelda Royce has talked about jumping in, but she hasn't officially yet. No other Republicans have jumped in than the two who are relative unknowns across, most of the state of Wisconsin. So, if you're happy if you're Sarah Rodriguez, Lieutenant Governor, I think you're moderately happy if you're Tom Tiffany, because, again, I don't think he actually wants to run for governor, but maybe is now feeling the pressure given the public opinion polling, which, by the way, I think is just based on name ID, not any kind of love for the guy.
Yeah, I think it certainly seems like he's running, right? Like I was out of town for much of it, but I saw some of the social media stuff that he was doing at Wisconsin State Fair and all of that. And that's the type of thing you're going to do if you're running as a statewide candidate. It seems like he's probably headed in that direction. And I think the main thing on the Republican side is a Trump endorsement. Like there was this poll that the Daily Caller put out that showed Tiffany at the top of the field with 40% to somewhere between 10 and 15% for Berrien and Showman. And then they said if Tiffany were to get a Trump endorsement, it was something like 60-some% of the Republican voters would back Tiffany. So I think the whole thing on the right for their gubernatorial primary is a Trump endorsement. That's the whole ball game.
Yeah, it's almost why even have a primary, which gets back, we end as we began, an attack on basic democracy itself. It's just whatever Trump wants.
It's not great. It's not
Dan
great.
Shafer, not great. You can read his stuff, which is always great, at the Recombobulation area, and political editor for Civic Media. Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate Appreciate
All right.
it. Have a
Enjoy
great
your
day.
time in the deep north.
Will do. Although I'll be central Wisconsin coming up tomorrow as I report live from WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids for their 85th anniversary. My thanks to today's guest, Dan Shafer there, Dan Hagan, Chad Holmes, Fred Clark, also Brittany Merlot, Parker Olson, and to you for being here today. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News, the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow morning from Wisconsin Rapids. All right, there we go. Look at that. I didn't end a minute early or anything. So
Good
all
stuff.
right.
You're getting the hang of this radio thing.
Well, just a little bit more, another 50 years, and I'll probably be close. So anyway, anything you need from me, sir?
I don't think so. As I was going through my my breakdown here,